Are you getting yourself ready for our show?
Oh my God, it is so early. We're recording the show for you guys on an early Sunday morning here, post Berkshire Bass Oxbow Connecticut River Tournament. We got all kinds of good stuff for you guys. It was an interesting, let's just say this. There was a big boat tournament on the Connecticut River during Memorial Day weekend. We're going to talk about that and all the fuckery that happened with that. I had some interesting stuff happen this week, and just the tip, we're going to be talking about what my experience was like preparing for my very first big boat tournament and what exactly happened. What was I thinking? All this stuff is going to get into play here. We got a huge list of FTGs given the date on the calendar right now and the mentality of a lot of folks that are out there. We got a lot of stuff to share with you guys. You're not going to want to miss it. We also have Chrissy Radwilowicz, hot off the heels of her breaking her new PB. You may have heard us talk about her before in some MAKB updates and stuff. She's a local tournament angler, but she shares some really, really great stuff. We have an excellent conversation coming up in segment number 3. Guys, go ahead, get yourself something delicious to enjoy. We're going to go ahead and get this show started right after this. If there is one thing that I've noticed about when we do this show in the mornings, it's that there is significantly less dancing during the intro to the show. We're recording at 8 a.m. I came back and we were all looking down. I'm like, "Is my coffee okay?" And I'm not mad at anybody. We do have somebody in the house here. Biggest Nickus is with us, and it's got to be Jesus. I mean, we're recording. It's like 8-something in the morning. I mean, for him out there, he's got to be even earlier, man. Nick, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Very appropriate since yesterday I spent all day fishing with Oldest Potatoist.
Yeah, Oldest Potato. Is that Latin or Greek? Yes. Okay. What a day, man. We had an awesome one yesterday. We're going to dive into all that. That's kind of our hot topic of the show because all 3 of us were there. Some of us in the same boat, and it's going to be exciting. We have results. You know, what all went down. Before we go ahead and get started, let's talk a couple of things. First and foremost, guys, we've got a little bit of a spike in our listenership. Things are happening here. We got big numbers happening in the last handful of episodes, and for that, we thank you. Significantly. You guys are amazing, and we love you. A couple of other things, though. If you're new to Jigs and Bigs and you're just getting into this show, please do us a big favor. Give us a review on whatever platform that you're listening to. That means if you're on Spotify, you can just give us a simple star rating. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead, give us a rating over there. You can write us a little review. Feed us a little bit of insight. If you've got some constructive criticism, we love to hear from you guys. I love hearing from listeners all over the world, and it just that part of this just blows my mind. We've also got Jigs and Bigs merchandise available for you. Some pretty good shirts. I got to get on it and get some new designs out there, but the wheels are turning for what some of these new shirts could be. We've got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got tons of hats. We've even got Bobby Roast Beef merch available there. Go to jigsandbigs.com. You can go ahead and hook yourself up with some goods that you need to complete your Jigs and Bigs everything. And if you truly love this show and you just can't get enough of it, so much that you would actually like to be sort of present when we record it, you get to see how the sausage is made, you get to see all the bloopers and stuff, and also engage directly on the show. I recommend becoming a jig head. There's limited seating available. We do still have a little bit of space, but you guys can go ahead and subscribe at our Patreon. Just go to jigsandbigs.com. We got a button right there that says subscribe to Patreon or join our Patreon. Click on that, and it'll bring it right over to Patreon. You can create an account. You can subscribe for $5 a month, and that $5 goes directly to the show, and we roll that in to operational costs for the show. That's really what that's kind of designed for, and the more of a subscriber base that we get, the larger things can happen. I had a conversation recently about growing the show and some of my goals. And I was talking with Chrissy Radwilowicz, our guest this week, and we were talking about like vintage lures, and this will come up in our bait of the week as well. But she's a big proponent of using just old shit. Like she's kind of like me. Like she likes old stuff. Like I've got some old plugs in here. You remember when I showed those pictures on the live stream, Sean, of those old plugs that my dad had gave me, like that he had collected from like years prior. And so I'm holding those for a very special reason. The same reason that you're holding an old Slayer, Native Slayer Max hull in your garage.
That's a different reason. That's personal.
Oh, I thought we were going to use that as a decoration for a video set. That's what I was going with.
Yeah, it is. It smells a little bit, but that's all right.
Oh, that's fine. We'll throw a few pine tree air fresheners in it. It'll be okay. Load it up full of Febreze. It'll be fine.
The hot ones, the one with the flame on them, smell like cinnamon. I have some of those.
There you go. That's awesome. Hey, it's better than black ice. Black ice is so played out. It smells great, but it's so played out. Like you're like, oh, all right. How's that new Nickelback album? That's the equivalent right there. So, we have a lot of shit going on. So yeah, that's I kind of let the cat out of the bag about that. Like that's one of the ultimate goals, like is to do this as a video show with various segments. The format would change at that point, or there would be a long form podcast and then a variety of shorts. But I want to put together a real set with like real shit and vintage shit. So there's the wheels are turning in the background. We need to have a full array of jig heads before that's ever going to happen, because that's going to involve like a studio, because we're going to rent a space. I mean, I've got goals, visions.
I'm having visions,
and they're frightening me. What else is going on? I gotta give a shout out to a local company before we dive into anything else. This is the craziest shit that I have ever experienced. I had recently. I was doing trivia at one of my events. Let me go ahead and look this up. Sit tight, guys. Sit tight. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be.
Bobby, I got a question.
Fire away. What you got?
And I wouldn't ask this, but we talked about this on a prior show and never went anywhere, because I did have somebody ask me about it. Remember we discussed there was a local lure and tackle maker that had been busted into cheating in a tournament?
Yes, I do remember that.
That fine, upstanding, integrity-filled person may have fished with us yesterday in the tournament.
Oh, really?
I don't think word got out. Yeah. That's what I had heard. I did not verify that because I don't know this individual's last name. We could talk about that off air.
Yeah, I thought this was I don't know if he does the big boat stuff, but really, that is interesting.
We can look. We have the scoreboard.
So I know. When we're at our little rendezvous later, I will drop a little message to the folks in that, and I definitely want to throw some names around for that. So yeah, coming up in a new episode, that will certainly be a situation that we'll be talking about. Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah, there's some foreshadowing. We got to talk about that.
Did they win?
I don't know their name.
Yeah.
They could have. I have no idea.
Gotcha.
You had mentioned the name of the company, and I remember I said, okay, I'd heard of them in passing.
Yeah.
But I don't know the individual's name. So we'll, obviously if that person, and this was after the tournament, so it's not like
anybody can fucking ring a bell.
Berkshire Bass officials would have heard about this, but we'll let them know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Couple other foreshadowing things while you're looking up that info. So I am going to very gently say this. I might have some big news coming up. I've spoken with you about it. And I think I spoke with Joe about it too, but I can't really get into it on the air. I have I might have a summer gig.
Yeah.
And we're going to, once the I's are crossed and the T's are dotted, I'll get into that a little bit. But not today. Just waiting. Just want a little foreshadowing.
You had mentioned the I's are dotted and the T's crossed.
Exactly.
There we go.
No, I know.
Perfect.
If you say it backwards, then your eyes are crossed.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, that was intentional. The other thing is you just mentioned that you and I are going to have a little powwow. Unfortunately, Joe can't come, but we're going to head down to Bar Taco and eat various seasoned pieces of duck, amongst other things.
Yeah, all the proteins.
And you and I will be plotting and planning really the rest of the year into 2024. We have 1, 2, 3 events we really have to talk about today, right?
Yep. 3 big events that are, most of them are public events. Actually, all of them are going to be public events. One of them, I believe the goal is to make it for the very first time a public event, which could be a lot of fun. But I'm gonna drop the bombshell that one of those events we're talking about is the 200th episode. Yep. Can you guys believe that shit? I mean, already. So we're going to do another live show. We have some ideas we want to put together, and we're going to drop. We have stuff coming up this later this year that I think could be a lot of fun. I do have my information, what I wanted to talk about. So like I was saying, a few weeks ago, I was at trivia. And this gentleman gave me his card. I forget what his name is. I have his card. And he was like, I'm setting up trivia. Now, keep in mind, my brain isn't in like, oh, yeah, I'm representing Jigs and Bigs when I'm, at trivia. I'm like, no. This is a Bobby Roast Beef event, and this is sort of like going through the motions every week. This guy comes up, and I always kind of like raise an eyebrow a little bit when I see somebody at trivia and they're wearing like a fishing like shirt or something like that, or a hat, or I see somebody, wearing like a, like a fishing hat or something like that. I'm like, I wonder if they listen to the show. I'm curious. And sometimes they do. Well, this one gentleman comes up to me and he says, hey, wait, are you Bobby Roast Beef from Jigs and Bigs? And he wasn't even in there for trivia. He was at like an event out on the patio and came in to use the bathroom and walked through and saw me setting up. He's like, I follow you on Instagram. I listen to the show. Holy shit. And I was like, yeah, man. Awesome. And, we're talking a little bit. He goes, hey, I run a company and I'm just starting this. And he's like, I'm in the craft jerky business. And the name of his company is called Armory Jerky. The tie-in, like the Springfield Armory, is kind of like a famous landmark for locals. So Armory Jerky is his company. He goes, I'm going to get you some samples to try, and I just like to know your feedback. And I was like, awesome. You're barking up the right tree. I love myself some jerky, and I'm glad to give my feedback. Well, we had a conversation about, I had visions of doing like this grand, like, tasting. Like all 3 of us were just going to go and like, maybe we'd give everybody a flavor. Everybody gives a review or something. Obviously, Sean has some dietary questions, that had needed to be answered. I did some research. I reached out to him and I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, what's the situation with these ingredients? This is such like a grassroots level thing right now that he's like,
I don't even know, man. I don't even know what to tell you.
I was like, that's okay. Don't worry about it, man, because it's a small operation. You're just getting things started. Totally understand that. So, and then Joe having his recent procedure isn't really able to do the chewing necessary for jerky, which sucks. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to take one for the team and eat all the jerky.
Well, or we get Joe a food processor.
Yeah, that's the.
I have one.
And what's going to happen? Is Sean going to baby bird Joe?
I'm going to have the spoon. I'm going to have the spoon with the airplane. Here you go, Joe. Whoa! Up in the hanger.
You guys also, getting back to the 200th show, just for a quick second, you do realize that it's still fresh in my mind that we're doing the My Two Dads intro when we walk. For that. That's happening. So, but Sean, get a silk shirt. We're gonna dress super 80s for this. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna be dressed like,
I'm just gonna come in a diaper.
Yes, perfect. I was thinking a onesie, but a diaper's even better. Like feety pajamas.
The sad part is there's probably a very small sliver, a percentage of our jig heads that'll be at this show that'll be in the corner going, oh yeah, this is hot.
It definitely will. So I got to tell you, this was like, I think it was a week ago. I dove into the very first flavor of this Armory jerky, and I was going into it with an open mind, and I chose the flavor that I did not expect that was going to be one of my favorites. And while it wasn't one of my favorites, it was great. It was a flavor called Smoky. This was like the straight up, almost like if you were to have somebody's original jerky. Like it was fantastic. It was the cuts, the pieces that he cuts the meat into are nice and uniform. It's really, really, really terrific. And then there was the one that I was most interested to try. He does a Caribbean jerk.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now your boy has a little bit of experience with authentic, specifically Jamaican food. He nailed this. In fact, I know what jerk seasoning he used just from the taste of it. It's the same one I use. There's only really 2 that I would recommend. And I know what he used, and he nailed it. It was so dang. It was that good. It was that good. And what's nice about it, it's spicy enough, but not over the top. So most people that want to try this would be like, oh, all right, this is pretty damn good. You know, it's interesting. You know, it definitely packs a little bit of a punch, but it's not going to kill you. You know, it's not like, you know, eating da bomb in a parking lot, frying wings with a guy you found in the woods. Hot.
It's not like they're going to kill the brother of Badula.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't dare. Yama, 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 yama.
That's for the Police Academy fans.
Police Academy. God damn, Steve Gutenberg, bring it back. Yep. So the third one, the one that I had yesterday on the boat, was the teriyaki flavor, and everybody does a teriyaki flavor, and this was out of this world. Really, really fantastic stuff. Like, he killed it. So what's awesome is, like, you know, he's got packaging and labels. The thing that makes me feel amazing is I feel like I've made it, because about 2 weeks after I had seen him at Nathan Bill's, I go in one day and he dropped me a message saying, hey, I dropped a little package off for you at the bar. I'll be, you know, they'll have it for you. Just ask them, you know, and grab it. I said, cool. I get there and the manager, Jody, comes up to me. She's like, Bobby, something weird happened today. Somebody came in for you and they left you a bunch of jerky. I said, oh, I was expecting this. It's okay. Awesome. And I feel like I've made it. I kind of feel like I've maybe I've tipped. I don't know. Could it get any better than this? So Armory Jerky. I think this has the potential to be a fantastic local product. And he's definitely in the right direction, nailing it. Excellent job, my friend. Excellent. So now that I'm done whoring myself out for beef, let's talk about our weeks. Does anybody want to go first? Because I had actually quite a bit of fishing.
I'll go first. I'll fire it up this week. I had a very, very busy week. First, we're going to start out with the Laugh at Sean segment of the program, or one of them.
Yep.
I did something last week that cost me an awful lot of fucking money, but it was good in the end because the process unveiled a lot of problems that were solved. For 15 years, I've been hauling kayaks around in the beds of pickup trucks.
Oh yeah.
I still use it. My trailer that I bought last year needs some renovation, so I'm waiting on that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came home last weekend, completely exhausted.
That's right, man. Fuck.
I tried very desperately to line my kayak up and get it as close to my garage door as I could without hitting it. And I failed. I whacked the fuck out of my garage door. I mean, I wasn't going fast. I just let my foot off the brake, go another 6 inches.
That sucks.
Yes, well deserved. I let my foot off the brake just to let it go another 6 inches, and it whacked it, and then the door wouldn't open. I said, oh, fuck. I luckily have a garage door service that has come out in the past, and actually recently, because we had another issue. They came back out, got the panels realigned. I mean, there's a dent in the door, which isn't too bad, and I don't really give that much of a shit. It's not like replace the door over a dent. But what he discovered during the troubleshooting and inspection on this door, now he worked on the other one last time he was here. We have 2 garage doors. This one, the motor had started to go. Oh. So there went a lot of money.
That upgrades. Yeah.
That's not cheap. But my garage door is safe for the next 5 years. So everyone have a laugh at me because I was completely exhausted and backed my kayak into a fucking garage door. And the NAR was fine. In case anybody is worrying. The garage door is made of possibly the flimsiest metal known to mankind, and it took a fucking lump. Next up, I did go pre-fish the Oxbow with the loaded potato. I was in his boat for this tournament.
Yep.
We didn't really have that great of a day. I think I caught 5 fish. 3 of them were smallmouth. One was the tiniest fall fish I've ever seen. And
that's right. I remember you telling me about that fall fish.
Yeah, bluegill, I think. That was Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We actually went out of the Oxbow, went north up the Connecticut River to parts of the river that I've never fished before. Oh, there he is. Good morning, loaded potato. We went up and fished parts that I'd never fished before. I obviously did some homework before I went out to try and figure something out. We just didn't get into anything quality other than loaded potato hooked into what looked to be about a 36-inch pike. Really nice pike. It turned and threw the hook, but we both saw it. And that was about it. And I caught some smallmouth again, the fall fish, and a bluegill. For the rest of the week was a build-up for my weekend because Friday I had to basically sleep all day because my wife and I had tickets for the second year in a row. I went to Boston Calling. We caught the Foo Fighters, the now new drummer-infused Foo Fighters with Josh Freese, who I've seen play with Perfect Circle. I think I saw in like 2003 or 4. So he's been around. Very professional drummer. He's in. And honestly, good show. Sounded fine. They did something, Bobby, that I hate. And I know bands are bored when they do this. It drives me fucking nuts when you pay a lot of money to go see a band and they do this. Because Metallica's like, this is Metallica's right up their alley. Excuse me.
Yep.
When they start either making medleys of songs, which they did not do, or a rock and roll, like a hard rock or heavy metal band starts putting in, I don't know, like jam parts to their song for no reason, it throws the whole rhythm off.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I can go see a jam band and I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Like I'm expecting them to do wacky shit. When you have a hard rock or a heavy metal band, I want to hear the song as close as it is to the album. And I know that's boring. You know, I get that.
Yeah.
Playing the same songs 1,000 times, but people are there to see that shit. And it throws you off when like a hard rock song with everything electric and driving, you know, is played half acoustic, and then the middle part's hard and driving, and then the remainder of it's acoustic. Like, what did you just do there? Why would you do that? So I mean, we had a blast. My wife and I had a really, really great time. We actually grabbed dinner at the Grafton Grill, which I've driven by 1,000,000 times and have never eaten there. Joe just lifted his head. Joe, you been to the Grafton Grill?
Yeah, a few years ago, but it was I have.
What'd you think?
So this was, we were in Boston. So Emma was like a month old. So it was kind of like get in there, eat and leave type thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. You know, it's nothing. I couldn't spend the time. I can't remember what I got, but I couldn't spend the time to like, you know, really enjoy it.
Yeah. That's how it is.
Yeah.
You know, with kids that young. Yep. For sure.
Well, the wife and I, on the way out to the Foo Fighters, stopped there, grabbed, we just decided to split a couple entrees and split an app. And the app was called Break Your Own Tacos, or Break Your Own Nachos, excuse me.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was, what are those called? You know, like tostados, is that what they're called? Where they're flat, yeah.
Yep.
So it was like that, and just a pile of shit thrown on top of them, sour cream, jalapenos, cheese, pico. Oh man, it was really, really good.
I love it.
The steak tips were phenomenal. And then the fish tacos we both felt were a little subpar.
Yeah.
But first time there, we didn't know what to try. Actually, which was kind of weird, kind of under-seasoned for fish tacos. They were crispy, but they just didn't have...
They were bland?
Yeah, which is weird. And then I made a mistake. I don't eat guac. I don't mind it. I don't know, my taste buds have shifted over the years. I'll eat it every now and again, I guess. But I try not to get it on tacos, and they smashed it underneath with tacos, and I didn't like that. But so anyways, we grabbed dinner, went to the Foo Fighters. We got home at 1:00 in the morning. My alarm was set for 4:30 so I could get out on the river, which was what it was. I'm sure, we'll talk a little bit more about that in tourney time, but we had the side bet going on, which I lost. I lost the side bet. We can talk about the side bet here because we're not going to talk about results.
Yeah.
This is on the side. Joe, what was your biggest fish of the day? You caught one, right?
Yeah.
How long was it?
Just under like 14 3/4.
Okay. So I caught up until we may have had to leave at 1:00, the loaded potato and I. We did not. We stayed till 3. But before we went out, Joe and you and I talked. We set the parameters of the bet. We're going to go till 1:00. Now, by 1:00, I had one fish, and it was a 12 and change.
Yep.
So Joe won the bet. I will be buying stupid bass sandals and wearing them at the Lake Buell tournament. Everybody enjoy it.
It's going to be good.
Nice job to Joe. And then at the end of the tournament with 30 minutes left, I pulled in my last keeper, which actually rounded off our bag and, was good. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in tourney time. Then I came home and passed out on the chair for like 2 hours, woke up, was awake, and then finally went to sleep. My wife was visiting a friend, so I kind of stayed up to make sure she got home all right. But yeah, that's this weekend. And today we are actually recording early today because of me. So thank you guys for accommodating my schedule. But after this, again, Bobby and I, you and I will be heading down to Bar Taco.
Yep.
Enjoying duck, enjoying what else? Pork bellies, enjoying
pork bellies, fish.
The Baja fish tacos. We will be knocking the shit out of that. Oh, street corn. Are you fucking kidding me? Street corn?
Dude, I'm in street corn.
Just so everyone knows, okay? Yes, I'm not making it, but it's not because I'm an asshole.
No.
It's because
that's debatable.
It's because I got to do a fucking birthday party for my twin 9-year-olds, okay?
Yes.
Well, and we should also we're doing this, and let's just pull the entire beef curtain off the table, because this meeting was
that was a beef curtain coming out.
Exactly. This meeting was supposed to actually be with this was supposed to be the two families, the Jigs and Bigs and the Hookset Hoodlum families coming together, but we had scheduling conflicts that were causing a difficulty for this day, actually making it happen. So we decided instead what we would do is we would take this time and maintain. And once that got canceled, this is when Joe had, obviously the birthday party serviced and all this stuff. Yeah. So Sean and I were just like, let's go and make some notes. So this way we can be as organized as possible when we do a Zoom meeting with the Hoodlums. So that's what this is all about. We're going to go ahead and get some notes together, figure out what's got to go on, dates, times, and we can use this opportunity too to talk about these other two events that are coming in the year. So yeah, this is not anybody being an asshole. This is just the fact that
when we planned this, I don't think except for Sean, because he admitted it, I don't think any of us realized it was Memorial Day weekend.
100%. I don't think I realized this was Memorial Day weekend until last week. I was like, fuck.
Right.
All this shit that we have planned. I was like, and nobody's going to be available for it.
Right.
We're fucking pieces of shit. So go on, Sean.
No, so today we're going to do that. We're recording now. We're going to eat. And then my oldest son has gotten into pro wrestling.
Yep.
I don't watch it anymore. I can't. The new product is not, it's not what it was in the 90s, in the 80s, even into the 2000s. But I do listen to my Jim Cornette. I do love hearing about how things were, and I like going to shows just to spend time with my son. So we're going to head out. There's a pay-per-view tonight for the, the WWE developmental brand. We're going to head out to the pay-per-view. I think we got good seats for it too. So we're going to be fourth row. Have some fun. I mean,
are you making any signs?
That's pretty much it. Huh?
Are you going to end up on Reddit? Did you make any more signs?
I don't know. I'm wondering if I should bring my Cornette sign again.
I'm not going to get into this too much. Sean, did I ever tell you that I went to high school with one of the divas?
Which one?
Carmella.
Oh, really? No, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we hung out together in school and stuff. Yeah.
Let's get her on the show.
Right.
Now, she's no longer active, I don't believe.
Well, she was going through, from what I saw, she was trying to get pregnant. And she just confirmed that she was. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Getting slammed around a wrestling mat is not conducive for getting pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You would not believe it.
Not that kind of slam.
Not that kind of slammed.
Yep. Well, that is my weekend. So I'm 2 out of 3 days done with insanity, and we got one more day of this left, and then tomorrow I can rest. Oh, I can't. I've got to pack for Champlain.
That's right, Champlain.
Yeah, we got EKF up at Lake Champlain next weekend, so I'll be up there having some fun. And that's pretty much it. I don't know. What do you guys got going on? What's up? Bobby, you got a lot of fishing, right? Joe, what did you do?
I got some fishing, and Joe, the only fishing you've got was yesterday, right?
It was a slow fishing week for me.
Why don't we go ahead and I'll go ahead and fill in my week, and then Joe will go through yours, and we'll use that to springboard into what was the Derb.
Let's do it.
I love it. Cool. So for me, What a week. So after recording last week's show, I had mentioned in there that I had, a checklist on my Jigs and Bigs tournament for this month that I was really looking for. And, Sean, you and I had a plan to go up to Stockbridge to hit up Stockbridge Bowl, because after all the reviews of the variety, the sheer buffet of different species that were available for you, and I can attest, Stockbridge Bowl truly is the golden corral of different species of fish. Like, you roll up in there.
What an excellent analogy.
Right? I worked pretty hard on that. And so I had, your plans had changed. You had some shit going on. That wasn't gonna jive. And I was like, all right, no sweat. Well, I'll either, I'll stick around where I'm going to go, or maybe I'll just go up there. And it happened to line up where Chrissy Radwilowicz had sent your boy a DM and said, hey, let's go and hit Stockbridge Bowl. I've got species I've got to check off my list too. Let's go for it. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And I think it was Tuesday when we went up there. And so, we go and we head over there. And first off, I got to say, what a great facility. The ramp is fantastic. Tons of parking. It's a good setup. I get there a little bit before she does. I get my boat ready. I'm prepping some stuff, and I'm waiting for her because there's a form for the zebra mussels that I have to sign off on and leave on my dash. Otherwise, they'll ticket you for that. You need to have it on display. So I'm waiting for her. She shows up. We get all that stuff situated, and we launch. We head out. And I asked her, I said, what do you think, which way should we go, this way or that way? And she's like, let's go up this way to the right, and we'll kind of fish along some of these docks and hit all this stuff. She's like, I had found a bunch of, crazy species over here. Now, this is a very, very clear water lake. It's very clear, high visibility. We go over there, and there are just swarms of these 3 or 4 inch yellow perch zipping around all over the place. I'm throwing a finesse swim bait. I'm just looking to locate fish, a small finesse swim bait, like an 1/8 ounce head on a 2 inch Kitech. And I'm throwing this around, and I'm getting so many follows. So many fish are interested in this thing. And, she starts hooking into rock bass, and she didn't get, I don't think she caught one of the perch. These were so small. And, she's catching a couple of largemouth too. And I was like, oh, no shit. Now, I know the largemouth seems like a surprise, because as the results from that MAKB tournament would tell you, it was a grind for the LMBs up there. So, I'm going to get to this first part right here. She sinks a hook into her new PB largemouth bass. Gets this in the boat. You guys have probably already seen the video. You've probably seen the one, with the music that's nicely edited on her profile on Instagram, or you've seen the raw, uncut video. Well, I say raw. I did add some bleeps in there just to make it interesting, because I've never heard Chrissy swear this much in person. It's unbelievable. She was ecstatic, and I was so happy for her. And she caught this fish, a 20 1/4, a very fat 20 1/4 with an actively bleeding tail. She caught this fish on the bait of the week, and we're going to talk about that and the versatility that a bait like that offers you. So I forget if it was at this point or where she had given me one of these baits to try. She's like, this is what they're hitting. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. What that bait was basically a beetle spin. So I cut off my Ned rig, and I tied that on, and I start flipping it around. Now, the spinning rod I use for my Ned rigs is a 7-foot medium extra fast. And I have an American Hero reel on there that's like a 6.2 gear ratio reel. And I was getting follows like crazy, even more than the swim bait. They're getting up there, and I was just not able to really connect with them. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it got me thinking. I decided to cut that beetle spin off of that combo and put it on my 7.2 medium light extra fast. Now, because it's got that extra length, even though it's extra fast, it's got a little bit more tip. So that with, I think the slower retrieve with that reel was just getting it done. I just started lighting fish up. I probably caught 25 fish. It was ridiculous. So
did you change colors when you went from the
No.
No, same color. What were you using?
Color. It was so it was the entire Beetle Spin had a silver blade, and there was a twin tail grub on there that was like kind of like a brown with like a red belly, like a stripe on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, once I changed up that combo that I was throwing it on, it was, not to mention the medium light also made it a blast to catch panfish, like everything, all those small species that I was targeting. It was great.
So let me ask you a question, Bobby. Did you
away.
use so you're using a twin tail grub on there, not like a beetle?
No, not like a traditional. When I say a twin tail grub, it was like an ice fishing like grub.
Yeah. So they're it's almost like a, God, how do I describe it?
It looks like a tube with two tails.
Yeah, just two little legs, not even tails.
Yeah, not even tails.
Legs.
Yeah, they don't even flap. They're stiff.
Yeah, you said twin tail grub, and I said, well, wait a minute, I thought you were throwing a beetle spin because no, it's cool. I just didn't understand. So traditional beetle spin with the little, they're called, I mean, they're stupid. They're called beetles, but yeah. And you know what's funny, man? All the time we had access to those as kids, and nobody ever threw one without the spin on it. You had to throw it with the spin, the little removable spinner.
Oh yeah.
Now we use Ned rigs.
Isn't it crazy?
That was a Ned rig.
Yeah, it totally was a painfully light Ned rig too. Like, and that's the thing that I think makes that bait interesting. And we'll kind of cover this, is that there's a lot of parts that you can change out. You know, like you could switch that jig to something else if you needed to sink a little bit more. You could use something a little bit heavier or lighter. You could use a bare hook. You know, there's so much stuff that you could do with that, and it's one of those baits where I think that, well, we'll talk about this in bait of the week. Trust me. So I immediately, after throwing this, I caught a beautiful 7-inch pumpkin seed, which I think of all of the panfish species that are out there, I think pumpkin seed are typically like the most breathtaking as far as like their patterns. Yep. They're gorgeous. Like those blue lines all over, like absolutely crazy. So I sink a hook into this. I get one on the board. I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. You know, I catch a couple other panfish, but I've got a point. Like, unless I catch the lunker, I'm not even going to enter it. I'll measure it, but I'm not even going to enter it if it's not going to get me any more points. And with panfish, I'm not throwing them in my NE5. I had to, my NE5, I needed to beat about 15 inches is what I was looking at. If I caught anything over 15 inches, it would go in the NE5.
Cool.
I did catch a pickerel that was over 15 that did land in the NE5, which was cool. And that was on the way back to the ramp. But I caught a black crappie. Which was very much needed. I hadn't seen any crappie anywhere, but I had heard from you, Sean, I think, that there were plenty of crappie in there. I just thought we were in the wrong area. And I happened to catch just this one rogue crappie, and so that was now 2 points that I needed. I was gunning for a total of 4. I needed yellow perch and a rock bass on top of that panfish and the crappie. I caught several rock bass. I caught 4 specifically that were were the largest, that were 7.5 inches and would not meet the 8-inch minimum. I was like, you've got to be shitting me. So I'm hoping to kind of, fix that, doctor that a bit. And all of the yellow perch that I was seeing, I never connected with any of those perch, but they were all, they wouldn't have met the minimum either. They were so small. So nothing there. My goal is that tomorrow morning I'm getting together with the Polish Hammer and we're renting a boat at Quabbin.
There you go.
That's my goal. That's what we're gonna go and do. And I'm just gonna go where the species are, and hopefully I can, I'm gonna try and go out with a bang on jigs and bigs for May. So that's the goal. I gotta tell you though, regardless, like I don't care where I land in the standings, the fact that I've put in the sheer number of inches on this tournament I am delighted with. Absolutely amazing.
This has been, from an outsider's perspective, this has been your best tournament, both points wise and mentally.
Yeah,
you have handled this one. Yeah, you got your groove on, dude. Go out and fish with other people, and if you catch some shit, you catch some shit.
That's exactly it. And I love, and fishing with Chrissy, she was in the tournament as well, and I think that just makes it that much more fun. So if you're in the tournament right now and you're like, shit, I got friends that would be into this, invite them to join. For the following months, go ahead and invite them to join and get together and go out and, hey, maybe the two of you guys can work on some shit together. Because really, at the end of the day, you're talking about tournaments that now we had like 40-something people in this tournament. Like, if a couple people get together and they're having some fun catching some fish, like, go for it. Have them enter. It's just, it number one, it increases the prize potential. Number two, it gives you a little bit of engagement on top of the regular engagement of, being involved with catching these fish and needing to target different species. So it was wild, man. I had an absolute blast. So I had to get back into town and handle the stuff Bobby Roast Beef needs to handle. And when I got the trivia that night, I was showing everybody the video of Chrissy catching this tank, and they're just like, "Holy shit!" Because Chrissy's a tiny person. Like she doesn't take up the space that like Bobby Roast Beef or Sean the Fisherman take up, whether the horizontal or vertical. You know what I mean? We kind of have it covered, Sean.
Laurel and Hardy, we got it.
We do. We really kind of do. God, that is such a ridiculously accurate description. So that might be the intro to the show, actually. Wow. Maybe a video.
Honestly, I think we should give everyone just the audio from Chrissy swearing unbeeped. That's what
yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
She gave us a thumbs up for it.
I am going to, let's do this.
And also, while you're doing that, I did have to make a phone call to Chrissy after I watched that video because Big Brother Sean always wants to make sure people that are in tournaments are able to help themselves out.
Oh, definitely.
And the first thing I said to Chrissy was, do not ever measure another bass on your lap ever again in your life.
Oh, yeah, it's not
that
a
thing.
great idea.
She got a quick measurement on that thing, and it went flopping and flying, and that was it.
Yes,
and
it
I
did.
said, you do not do that again, because if that was a tournament, I said, did you get a picture? She said, no. I said, if that was a tournament, that's a 20+ inch fish that you just are not going to be able to turn in.
Oh, yeah. So
yep.
I'm gonna put. We're just gonna show this video. Let's go ahead and do that.
Oh, okay. We'll do it now then.
We'll show the video. Screw it. It's on Instagram, but I'm going to give it to you guys.
Hang on. I'm coming over to you.
Oh my God. Holy I'm scared to pick him up.
No, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Hold him up for the camera. Dude, yes! Look at you! That is so awesome!
Wow. The only bass I will kids.
Good for you. Damn it, I don't have a scale. I say we can weigh them, but... Oh yeah, get a measurement,
Nice mouth, sailor.
She killed it. She killed it. Absolutely freaking killed it, man. It was awesome. When that fish flopped off, I didn't realize she almost lost her phone. I was like,
no shit.
Oh shit. Yeah. Like you're right though about measuring fish on your lap. It seems like it would be convenient, but you lose so much control.
Yep. And also, if just saying that, Bobby, thank you. Chrissy, get a tether for your phone. Thank you.
It's a good idea too.
I mean,
sorry, Dad. Jesus.
I know.
Yeah, phone tethers are good.
Look, us kayak anglers, Joe, we take care of each other. I mean, compared to, what you see at a big boat tournament, hey, let's keep a fish in a live well all day. Oh, let's weigh them, keep them out of the water for another 20 minutes. Oh, they got to go back in the water. Hey, let's punt them. Farthest one for $5. Ready? On my mark. Hot hike.
Sean.
Yeah.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
No, but the problem is a lot of them die. I actually mentioned that to who was I?
Okay, so then only the strong survive.
Okay. Nobody likes a 6-pounder floating belly up, Joe. Nobody.
Oh, well, you break an ankle, you punt that.
Yeah.
6 pounds, you know what I'm saying? I have so that was Monday. Monday was awesome. I head back and like I said, I was showing the video to everybody. It was fantastic. I then ran over to where was I? Oh, I ran over to Congamon Jr. Because Thursday I was just like, I'm going to give it a send for a good 4 or 5 hours. I'm just going to go ahead and make it happen. And I actually, as I get there, I see a DCR truck parked right near the ramp. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on. A gentleman comes over. His name is Matt. Matt, how you doing? He was actually just doing some surveys as people were launching boats, asking questions about where they had launched previously, if they knew about, zebra mussels and, other, what's the word I'm looking for? Invasive plant species and things like that, asking questions about what they're targeting, what they've been catching, stuff like that. Totally cool. We had an awesome conversation. I told him, I was like, we would love to get somebody on the show from DCR just to kind of like demystify some of the stuff that's out there as far as, regulations and, all sorts of stuff that we could talk about. And it's one of those things where we, he's like, I would love to actually have my boss on there. In fact, he has another gig working for a company that does like, I want to say like kind of like adventure outings, but it encompasses everything from like, rowing events like kayaks and canoes and fishing, hunting, like all this other stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, that would be amazing for, some of our listeners. They're, business owners and they have a staff and they, want to do team building exercises. And, this hurts my business. Maybe they don't want to do a game show. Maybe they want to do something that's a little bit more outdoors, hands-on. This is something that would be pretty cool. So we're hoping to kind of make that happen. I got out on the water for 4 or 5 hours and I got to tell you, Congamon Jr. did what Congamon Jr. did, and it was windy as hell. I caught all of my fish on either a Ned rig or actually the majority of them were on a Ned rigged curly tail grub, most of them. And then at the end on a more of a finesse swim bait presentation, I was laying into some pretty good number of dinks over a weed bed that I had gone by earlier. And I'm like, when I go back in, I'm going to hit this on the way in, and it delivered like 6 bass. But every single fish I caught was of absolutely no use in the tournament. And they were all pickerel and bass that were shorter than I needed to actually do anything with those fish. So unfortunately, didn't make any upward mobility over there. And Sean and I were talking about that. Like, there's so many small pickerel over there, but it's like the big ones are making more. Like there's got to be big pickerel over there. And that's ultimately what I was hoping to get was a 20+ inch pickerel. So I could start, if nothing else, padding out my NE5 and making a shot to try to get the most inches I could get, this is not gonna be of any help over at Congamon Jr. So I called that a wrap, and then that was it. I didn't go out on Friday. I had a bunch of stuff that I had to get ready for on Friday. Friday was actually a really big prep day for Saturday's tournament. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Joe so he can talk about stuff, kick things off for Saturday, and then you and we can all kind of talk about our experience on Saturday.
Yeah, so I'll go through my week real quick. It was more just personal stuff. So let's go back to last week. Remember about the turkeys, guys?
Oh my God, yes. Oh Jesus.
We're down to 1.
Oh no.
But it's been a few days. So I told myself in the 2 more days from today, if it's still alive, we will give it the official name of Marcus. To name him after Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor.
So let me ask you a quick question, Joe. Was this one of those things where you came home after a few drinks and you couldn't find chicken nuggets and you're like, fuck it, and you just fired one in the microwave? Like, how did this work?
Oh wow.
What's been decimating these birds? You or natural causes?
So natural causes. So okay. I finally got a hold of the hatchery that I got them from. They're like, oh no, like blah, 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 blah. We'll send you another batch. I'm like, okay. I was like, if this doesn't work out with this one, you need to reimburse me or give me a refund. They're like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, I'm running out of garden space and I got all kinds of holes around my yard because now the kids are burying them. So Marcus is up there. Marcus seems to be thriving. So we'll see what happens with that.
He's the alpha turkey.
Yeah. So going up to the tournament, one thing that I did do, I think Tuesday was I've been doing some, not so much research, but mostly like Instagram scrolling, shit like that. And I kept coming across stuff for BFS fishing. And we've talked about it in the past and whatever. And I was just like, you know, I never really, not that it didn't interest me, I just didn't look into it farther. So I did that. I researched it a little bit more this week, and I ended up buying myself a BFS setup. I ended up going with the Corrado BFS reel, and I ended up going with a 6 cents Milliken casting rod. That's set up for BFS. It's like a 610, I believe, medium. Yep. So yeah, we'll talk about that. I'll talk about that kind of during the tourney. But yeah, so that came in time. Friday was a big prep day for me. Right, I had to get the boat ready. I didn't do my Wednesday night league this week just because time constraint with work, and then it was garbage weather, so I wasn't gonna go out there to get soaked for a very minimal amount of money. So yeah, so I did that, but Friday was all prepping. Friday was, you know, ensuring that live wells are good, you know, boats charged up, all my rods are rigged and where I want them to be. Cleaned it up a little bit, you know, brushed off the seat for Bobby, and you know, it did that. But yeah, it was a lot of you know, just getting poles together, trying to figure out what I wanted to do for baits, because where we fished, I'd only really fished the Oxbow itself. I'd never gone into the river, but in my mind that whole time, and Bobby and I were kind of talking about it all week, was I wanted to make that run up the river. And again, we'll talk about that during tourney time, but so I was trying to prep for that, but yeah. So how do we want to do this? We just want to roll right into it, or?
Yeah, let's do it. So this wasn't the first stop on the Berkshire Bass Trail. This was stop number what?
No,
three.
I believe, yeah, 3.
Yeah, this is the third stop, and I gotta say, like, I've never, now, granted, I have no experience in this, and I think that kind of actually lends itself to something interesting. Is that I thought this was run unbelievably well. All things considered, I even said to Spence afterwards, I was like, this was awesome. I think like just the whole process was really, really good. Now, taking into account, obviously, the elements that could work totally out of control, the chaos that is the Oxbow boat ramp, the fact that it was Memorial Day weekend and like the rec boaters were just out hard. They gave zero fucks. And then the other thing too was that there was a carp tournament on the same day. So I got a message from Todd Grubb when I was out earlier that when we were upriver, actually, before we had decided to come back into the Oxbow, I got a message from Todd. And he was like, so that makes, and he was responding to a story I posted earlier in the morning. He goes, this is why Fred Powers said I would be pissed off, is because there's 2 tournaments happening right here. He's like, be careful if you guys see anybody on the sides of the banks. Now, on the main river, there were folks that were bank fishing. We only saw one setup that I could guarantee that I was like, they're carping. Like, I knew it. I was like, yep, they're carping. Yeah. But they may not even have been in the tournament. I don't know if the tournament was just in Oxbow. We actually went by. Remember that spot we went by, and I was like, I think that's my buddy Eric's truck.
Yeah,
I think he's in there. Yeah. So just a little ways down from that, that's where Fred Powers was and his whole crew. And I was like, no shit. I said, well, how long you guys, he invited me to come by and hang out. I was like, I'd love to. Last night, I just didn't have it in me. I was so fucking tired. Yeah. I was just like, oh God, I just don't have it in me. I'm going to try to come by if I can at some point, maybe even tonight. Because they're there till Monday. Tournament goes until Monday.
How long does it go?
Yeah, it goes till Monday.
They're just straight up like camped out for the weekend, just fucking with their lines in the water.
Because that's how it is with carp fishing. Like, you set up your baits, and you might rebait some stuff and throw a new cast out there once in a while, but it's a lot of just waiting for that bite. And then it's absolute chaos. So we actually went by them. So I'm gonna pop over and say hello if nothing else. There was a lot of shit going on. When there was a lot of moving parts, but I think taking all that into consideration, I think Spence did a great job. So
Did, yep.
Berkshire Bass all day. In fact, there's one element I would kind of like to talk to when we're not recording, talk to you guys about that I think could be fucking sweet.
Okay.
Yeah. It could maybe a good collab if it maybe, you know? So then
why don't we discuss it? Let's discuss it today over duck.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Definitely. I'll throw you a message, Joe, and let you know what we're talking about. I think this could be a good fit. So, you know, that's my 2 cents. So this is trail stop number 3. There were what, 15 boats?
19
boats in total.
Yeah.
Like it was awesome. I gotta throw Nate under the bus for this one. So this was like a week ago. Joe had messaged me and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing on this date?" And I was like, "Why? Nate bailed or Bill bailed on you?" And he's like, "Yup." I was like, "All right, I got you. I'm co-angler." And I told Joe, I said, "Now, do we tell Sean or no?" And we both thought, we're like, no. Let's let Sean just be surprised when we get there. Like, he'll be like, "What the fuck? Oh, who the fuck put this together?" Some shit like that. And I was even going to make, because I knew that Nate was the backup, but I figured Nate had something going on or anything. I didn't know that Nate was going to be fishing with the butcher, which is why he wasn't available. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so if I'm filling a role here, I am playing the role of Wild Bill fishing. If he were to eat Nate. That's who I am. If he were to eat Nate Shagnon, that's Bobby roast beef. And I think that's a good estimation.
I don't know. I don't think Nate has enough caloric content. There's a lot of nicotine in there.
There is, but I feel like that bloats. Yeah. I feel like that bloats pretty well, you know? And, you know.
True.
Like multiple times on this show, I've been like, Wild Bill running. Although I will say this, Wild Bill has been out fishing. He's been out trout fishing like a champ. He's just been quiet about it. You see stuff on his story, and he's been catching some beautiful browns, some rainbows. Nice. Yeah. What do you guys think about the tournament?
So let me say this about what you were just talking about Nate. So when I put that reel on and I was like, you know, I have a surprise guest or whatever, 10 minutes later or 10, 20 minutes later, my phone rings and it's him. And that motherfucker pressed to me for 10 minutes on who is it? I was like, dude, I'm not telling you. He's like, I ain't gotta say nothing. I was like, dude, did. I will tell you. I was like, it stays between us. You can't fucking say anything. He's like, nah, dude, I won't. Dude. So I told him. And that motherfucker opens his big ass mouth. His mouth is bigger than his fucking him himself. Him and I are going to fight.
Oh, God.
He knows it. But, yeah, him and I did have a little side bet during the tourney, so I owe him I owe him something. So
yeah, there you go.
Whoa, what was the side bet here? I got to hear about this.
It was more of a bag versus like you and I's. Like he's like, want to do a little side bet, dude? I was like,
nailed his voice perfectly.
I was like, I already have one. He's like, so what, dude? It's not with me though. I was like, all right. I was like, what do you want? He's like, a bottle of booze. I was like, okay. I was like, what? And then I was like, what booze? He's like, you know, Jameson. So I'm like thinking he's gonna give me. I was like, oh, Jameson. Like, I was like, okay,
that's fine.
yeah.
I might even have a bottle that's unopened that I'll just give to you.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. And for my Irish degenerate friends when they come over, you know. But yeah, and I was like, all right, so if I win, you get me a bottle of redemption. So they beat us.
Well,
so
I want to say I was witness to this whole thing, and Joe came out swinging with his choice. He said Whistle Pig, and yes, that's my favorite, right above all. Whistle Pig is nice.
Yep. So yeah. So go ahead, Bobby. Let's keep hearing your standpoint on this since this is your first go.
So I had my gear. I tried to condense some gear, and I put all that stuff together, and I was just jacked. I'm like, yes, this is gonna be awesome. 8 hours, we're gonna fucking just fish. It'll be great. So, like I said, we kind of had a little bit of a plan. And, I think this probably, maybe you guys can, maybe Sean, you can shed a little bit of light here. Although, actually, I don't think you would make this. I think you're a live and die by the plan kind of guy. Now, neither one of us had really actively like fucking pre-fished. So I was going into this with the only history that I had fishing this with Tim Jakes. So I knew where we had found fish before, and I know that that's generally a terrible idea, but I was also trying to throw logic in there. So ultimately we decided, because it was Memorial Day weekend, we decided to go south, where very few other boats went at that time. We made the decision at the last second to go south. We went down, we started at a marina. And specifically because we're like, we want to cover these docks. There's most likely going to be fish over there. Like, let's go ahead and find them and see what we can get in the boat. We got to our first spot, and I think it was in less than 10 minutes, Joe was on with the first fish. He was on, and it was great. I'm like, oh, dude. I'm thinking, I didn't say it, but I was like, oh, if this is going to be the kind of day it is, that would be fucking magic. Yeah. Now, Joe's throwing a swim jig, a very particular swim jig. I was throwing a finesse swim bait, and I hadn't had a follow or anything while we were over there. So I had switched things up. I had a Ned tied on in a new color that I had thrown around. And when I say a Ned, I mean, this is more of a finesse jig. It's a little bit heavier of a Ned and with a little bit more of a full profile. And at one point, I had just been, I'd flipped under a dock and, worked my bait out from under this dock a bit. And then it just was like zipping it back. And I was looking at the color of this bait and the way it was reflecting in the sunlight. And I'm like, this might be the jam. This might get the visibility. It might be exactly what I'm looking for. And there was a big follow behind it that Joe had seen. He's like, holy shit. He's like, I think it was a pickerel. But it's like there was a follow. So that in my mind said, okay, there's something about this, and I think I know what this is that I'm going to keep in the back of my mind, having to do with water visibility and color and everything else. So I go, this might be a little bit more of the move. I didn't get a bite over there. We worked our way, continued down south. We then moved over to the West Bank. We hadn't had another bite. Moved a little bit further down south, and then made the judgment call that we should start heading north. Let's go ahead and go up that way. Maybe we can get on some fish that way. So we had gone up to another spot, a very small area with some docks, as well as some bridge pylons. And, Joe, you had even said, like on LiveScope, you were finding fish, but they were most likely schools of crappie or other fish.
I was finding the crappie, and this is kind of what told me that these fish were probably on beds. And the smallies, like we talked about, tend to bed a little deeper. Once they're doing that, like on a live scope or whatever, you don't typically really see them. You might see a little blip like on the bottom to where you're like, fuck, is that a rock or is that a fish? And so I think that I was like, okay, it looks like they might be on beds like here. So,
and then we got a little confirmation because we had gone over and fished some docks and real shallow. So this one dock has this system where there's like a wooden walkway that comes down from the side of the building, and then parallel to the bank, there's another wooden walkway for this dock. And at one end, it juts out and connects to where all the slips are that are set further off the bank. And we're in between this little pass. What? Info, second fail, black barrel. What? Oh, he's talking about the bet. I go and I'm flipping a stick bait in a particular color, it up against the front side of this walkway, and the current is coming down, and it's basically just fluttering down and going with the current, and it got slammed and ran off 2 or 3 times in succession. And I'm like, there's a bed there, bud. There is a bed right there. I'm like, and if
dropped.
If I can get him to take this stick bait, I'm like, we'll have another one in the boat. And it just wasn't happening. So we decided to move on. And I said, there's a spot a little further north where I have spotted beds in the past and not this early in the year. I think it was a little bit later. And I mean, obviously, the spawn can vary depending on what's happening with conditions. And I said, but I know I've seen beds up here before. I said, maybe we should head up. And it wasn't too far up. I said, let's go and hit it. We'll try it. So we found this one spot. Now, we get up to this one spot, and there's another boat at the back end of this one little channel that we're going to fish. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I wonder if this guy is going up and he's already fished this, or if he's coming back down. Who knows? And he wasn't from the tournament. There was only one angler on the boat. So, I don't know. Did we get his name, Joe?
I don't think we did.
I don't know if we got his name.
Yeah.
Nice guy. Very, very nice guy. We stopped and had a conversation. This is what I fucking love about the big boat stuff, though, because like both of us put the Raptors down. We're standing there drinking coffee and just fucking bullshit. And it was like you're standing on your dock talking to your neighbor. Like
we had the same boat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And so they're having conversations and stuff, and he gave us a little bit of info regarding some of the forage that some of these fish were eating. And as he had left, we're kind of starting to put together the pieces of this pattern. Like in my mind, I had a color that was working for these conditions, and a presentation that was working, and I was trying to work within that. So I had a finesse jig that matched that color, and I had a stick bait that would also match that color. So I had something that I could fish really, really slow, and then something that I could get a little bit faster on the bottom if need be. That finesse jig didn't get a bite all day. It didn't get a bite at all. So this stick bait is what got me every single bite that I had thrown. So I had, we had gone up a little ways, and one of these pieces of information that he had shared, Joe had pointed out, and he was like, I think that's one of those things he was talking about. I said, well, motherfucker, let's go ahead and see what happens. And once you know it, there was some submerged timber right over there, and I spotted our next fish. I sight fished that motherfucker. So that was
what he
awesome.
says over there. What he says over there, we literally were on top of this fucking fish.
Yeah. I mean, my eyes aren't great.
Like 2 feet over from us, he's like, there's a fucking fish right there.
Yep.
And like, Bobby's getting ready. Like, I go, well, hold on, let me like move us away from it a little bit so we don't spook it. And yeah, sure as shit. Like, yeah, go ahead, continue.
So I flipped my my stick bait up river a little bit. So same thing, same maneuver to just try to get it to float right back down. And it's not going right over in front of its head. I saw this fish jut out probably about 2 yards and grab this worm. And I think I missed the first one. Mm-hmm. And then I threw a follow-up, same bait. I was like, nope, not even going to change it. I'm going to do the same exact thing and see what happens. Same thing. Bang. Finally got him. And God, I was so stoked because, and I said this in my post on Instagram yesterday, I had 2 goals primarily. One was just to contribute. That was it. Yep. Just to contribute. As long as I contributed to the bag, I was happy. That was my goal. At least I did my part. And I even forget what the second one was. Yeah. But that was the primary one. I was like, I just want to contribute. I don't want to be the reason that we're like, fuck, we haven't caught any fish. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So I'm like, fuck yes. Now we got 2 in the live well. Yep. Let's keep going. We went up further north and saw some big trout.
And you, I think, I know at least you, I think both of us, or at least definitely you, hooked in like 1 or 2 more times there.
Oh yeah,
just like whether they shook the hook or whatever. That was
exactly it. Like, and I think that what we were finding were fish that were that population of fish that were on beds, and they were reacting to the baits that we had. But because of them being on beds, it was like we really would have had to just dedicate all of our time right in that one spot.
Yeah.
So we reached finally up to the top. We talked to another angler that was bank fishing, and we got to this crazy shallow part and turned back around and looped back over. We went up further north, and I don't know that we got any bites up there. Did we, Joe?
I don't think so. Once because we went way north.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my boat would go, really. And like we were north of Hatfield, you said, right?
Yeah, we were. We were north of Hatfield. Yeah. I was like, let me look and see exactly whereabouts we are, how far up. So that was when we decided we would take a trip back down. And that's when it was like perfect timing. The wreck boats, fucking A.
Oh my God.
Wow. It was wild. Now, this ride back down, because we had made the decision, we're like, let's put the rest of this time in at Oxbow. You know, there's there's another marina in there. We can go and flip those docks if we feel like that's the move, or we can go and try and find some largemouth maybe in the weeds and see if we can put something together. And we found fish on beds up there as well. But they weren't, you know, I got a handful of taps, again, same presentation, a handful of taps, but unable to connect with anything. So that kind of sucked. We got the marina was pretty crowded. It was pretty tight.
Yeah, it was just, there's so much boat traffic there. I was like, nah. I was like, and I wasn't really spotting anything too much on live scope. So I was just like,
yeah. And I think it was another one of those situations too, where we were seeing crappie or something else.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I knew.
Yeah.
I was seeing probably big. I mean, you know, Sean knows crappie and bass on live scope look very similar.
Yeah.
But you know, this time of year, you know, the bass really aren't schooled up. So that's kind of what gives away. And like you know, not to get into live scope stuff, but if you have 3, 4, 5 crappie that are in close, the signal might come up looking like a big bass, kind of gives a similar signal. And then all of a sudden they spread off and you're like,
gotcha.
All right. Yep.
That bass was Voltron and they just switched out to the lines.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Little 80s reference there.
Nope.
It was. Now, what was your experience like, Sean?
I had gone pre-fishing with Andy, and again, we went north. We didn't go as far north as you guys. We kind of focused on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas where we'd done some homework and received a tip or two. You know, we all make phone calls.
Oh, absolutely.
And I kind of applied some of the things I learned on the Connecticut River tournaments last year with EKF, and then the time I've spent up north.
Yep.
And when we pulled in, I had talked to Nate the day before. He had let me know he was fishing. I totally forgot about it. I said, oh, shit, that'll be great. We got down to the launch, and he and the butcher were loading in. And they had gotten there early enough. Now here's where the ball busting started, because we can't have a good fishing tournament without ball busting.
Yeah, it's part of it.
When we got there, we were the second people there. The butcher and Nate were first there, and they were staging their boat right in front of the ramp. By the time Andy and I, the loaded potato, had gotten into the water, which was 5-10 minutes in, because we staged up in a parking spot. I threw all my stuff in. Andy backed the boat down. By the time all that was done, they were still there, and now there were starting to be some other boats piling in. And I tapped the butcher on the shoulder and said, hey, I don't know how things work at Webster Lake, but out here you stage away from the area in front of the ramp. And he gave me a grunt, and I went on my way. And I thought, all right, I've got under his skin for the day. That's good. We did go north, and something very unexpected happened. Loaded Potato is a live and die by topwater guy.
Yep.
And he has been flinging around a small whopper plopper on our adventures over the past couple of years. Man, did it pay off. First fish, whopper plopper, little smaller smallmouth.
Yep.
Second fish, smaller smallmouth, but both legal, you know, whopper plopper. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's 2. I'm like, I'm throwing around Ned rigs. I was catching smaller smallmouth, but nothing worth a shit.
Yeah.
And not Ned rigs, excuse me. I was drop shotting all day. Finally, we got to one of the spots that produced for me on Monday. And I got a 12-incher, got on the board. So that was 3 fish in the bag. Andy caught a third smallmouth for him, which was a 4th on the whopper plopper again. So that was 4. And we sat on those 4 fish for, God, I'd say half the day, easy, if not more than that, until finally we went on his suggestion. All my suggestions were shit. So, you said I go by a game plan. I mean, I have a checklist, but
yeah.
The game plan is if we start catching fish, stop until we really exploited a spot. We pretty much did that. And then it just went dry. So we tried inside the Oxbow, and all I got, I think, was let me look. Yeah, bluegill, a little tiny bluegill. We couldn't hook up on any largemouth. We went into the weeds. Actually, you guys had gone by us when we were extremely shallow. We were in about a foot of water fishing the weeds. They weren't in there. If there was a largemouth bite, my guess is it vanished.
Yeah.
As soon as the traffic started hitting. Plus, again, there was the carp tournament going on. There were lines everywhere inside the Oxbow. And then at 2:30, I hooked into our biggest fish of the bag, which is 14 and a quarter. So we did round off a bag. We finished, almost dead in the middle of the pack. We finished 11th.
Yep.
And that was really it. You have days like these in tournaments, whether it's in a kayak or a bass boat, and they're not, they're a lot less fun in a kayak when you're by yourself, and you're able to watch a scoreboard.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna go on a super rant for this, but I made mention to, I think it was Nate or was it you yesterday that, these fish weigh-ins, they're going to be a thing of the past in 10 years.
Oh yeah.
This generation
it's not
going away.
It's not sustainable to the fish population. It's
a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah.
You're beating up the fish for no reason.
Yep.
And it's 2023. There is an app for that. There's three of them I can think of.
There's multiples, more than that even. Yeah, there are. Yeah. There's plenty, and they don't get the attention, And I understand that people want like that. I totally understand like the weigh-in gathering, like that whole thing. But there's so much more you could do with that, and you don't have to actually weigh these fish. You know what I mean?
We do it. We do it for MAKB.
Yep, absolutely.
We do it for EKF.
Yeah.
You can still have an award ceremony without people dragging fish around for 8 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Beating the shit out of them.
Yeah.
But look, the real thing is no matter what I say about it or what you agree with it or whatever the three of us think, what is it? MLF already does it.
Yeah. Well, to a degree, I think there's some other MLF like divisions that use live wells. Like the big, the big five. I don't know. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But yeah, you're right. That MLF, like put an official on a boat. They do the weigh-in. There's a size minimum, and then boom,
Yeah, it's going to go away. I mean, everybody. This is much. I don't know, much more efficient way of doing things. But
for sure,
whatever. We brought our fish in. We put them back. We punted them like footballs.
That's the way to do it. Oh, see, you guys did that. I was just slamming them down and like doing a touchdown dance.
Oh, good. Yeah, spiking them like Gronk.
Yeah, exactly. Really, let's be honest here. I'm into conservation, and I celebrate it, with, I do a touchdown dance.
Killing fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, that was pretty much it. We caught a lot of smallmouth, and I drop shot it all day. Another tournament where I could not get the drop shot rod out of my fucking hand.
I threw a drop shot. I forget where I was, but I couldn't get a bite. And I was just like, you know what? I'm like, I'm going to put this away for a little bit. Although I did, after we got this one tip, when we started catching fish, I had a little something in my back pocket. I'm like, I should be drop shotting this. And it would be a more controlled way to get my bait in front of these fish. And then I had another boat mentioned to us that they caught all theirs on jerk baits. So they were eating. It was just a matter, I think, more so of the challenge was really just finding those fish. The
best part is when we heard the jerk baits. You and I just looked at each other and were like, "Fuck!"
And you know what? That's the thing. I had some in my. And what's funny too is I heard like Sean had mentioned the whole whopper ploppers. I have like 3 floating jerk baits that would have been ideal in that situation. You know what I mean?
I threw, just so you know, I threw floating jerk baits all day, and I kept trying to break it up. Nothing would attack.
They wouldn't bite. No shit.
I was getting all my fish in 15 to 20 feet of water.
Really?
In the deeper part of channels with the drop shot.
Yep.
Andy would say, because he has 2 graphs on his boat.
Yep.
2 screens. Excuse me. I hate using the word graphs for this. It makes no sense for me, but he has 2 screens. Unfortunately, the screen in the back, the live scope is not hooked up there.
Gotcha.
So I'm fine. It's a Garmin. It's stuff I've used for years. I can do what I want back there. Mm-hmm. But when any live scope information comes up, Andy will yell back, "Hey, fish suspended 10 feet of water, 4 feet down," or whatever. Yep. And we worked with that, but we never. We both threw jerk baits. Andy threw a smaller one, even busting out an ultralight. I threw floating. I threw suspending. I threw 3 different patterns. I could not get anything hooked up on a jerk bait. But then the drop shot was fine.
But that's fishing. You know what I mean? Like it'll work. Somebody's in a different area, obviously different fish, you know, and hey, oh yeah, we caught them all on this. And then there's the potential that maybe they didn't catch them all on that. And maybe that's just what the fuck they're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I always keep that in the back of my mind. The talk is super cheap, you know, unless you're listening to Jigs and Bigs, because I share what the fuck I'm throwing pretty much all the time. I might leave a detail out or two, but you know.
I'm leaving the details out. I threw a drop shot. I'm not telling you what bait I threw on it. What type of hook or anything about that. I just threw a drop shot. So make out what you will of that, you know?
Well, I'll share exactly what the plastics are and everything. As long as you're putting money in my pocket, that's fine.
Exactly.
I'm an idiot. Yep. Yeah, this was awesome. From my first experience, I love this. This was great. Now, I do want to mention, I know I'm going to blow the top off of like tourney time, but I want to get into some of the results for us. For Joe and I,
we came in dead last.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
We didn't?
No, we came in like, hold on. Let me think. I want to say 16th or 17th.
Really? We did better than I thought.
There was one or two boats that didn't even weigh in.
Oh,
and then
really?
Then there was a bag that we were heavier than.
No shit.
Yeah,
there was a bag.
Joe, I'm looking at this. Oh, yes, there was. Yep, there was one bag. You guys were heavier than, and then 3 boats turned in nothing.
So there was a boat that had they had. I think they were the position right over us. I think they had at least 4 fish. They might have had a full bag, but the weight in between those two was painfully like we were just a click over 4 pounds and 2 fish.
Yeah,
you know, and I was like. So we caught quality. Like, could you imagine what we would have done if we could have maintained that level of quality, but gotten a full bag?
Right.
You know, I mean, we would have had a 10-pound bag.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you know, I'll take it. That's fine.
You know what? And I'm not the type to make excuses or whatever, but I was happy because guess how many times I fished that Connecticut River?
Like 2 or 3, right? That's it.
0.
Oh, 0 in the main river.
I had never really gone into the river. I fish Oxbow.
Yeah.
So it's like the one thing, you know, and I'm not a smallmouth guy, and but you know, one thing I'm always trying to learn. And if me learning is during a fucking tournament, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
Because chances are I wouldn't have gone out there any other time.
You can only have so many payout spots, and there's that many more people. You're just in the pack of losers. You might as well add value and learn something while you're out there, and that's big.
And this is so the person who came in first. I won't go over weight or anything yet, but the person who came in first with that specialty boat.
Oh yeah,
he does every tournament in the Oxbow.
Yeah,
and he does that same run every single time.
Yep.
So it's like a lot of these people, they fish that Connecticut River constantly, you know, so it is.
That's one of the things. And I struggle with sometimes as a tourney angler, like when you have a big pot, when you have a large tournament, a lot of payouts, you're going to, especially if it's open, you're going to draw the locals who are going to have a leg up with experience at that place. And then the nice thing you can say to them is, great, you won on your home water, but you know, you went out somewhere else. Whereas like you see that I think the better anglers are able to read different bodies of water and finish high at every one. You know what I mean?
I'll say this much too, and this has been brought up on the show before, that really the number one factor in creating a chain of success is experience. And I think these guys, they're fishing their home water, but that's where they dedicate their time. If nothing else, it says that they have the experience there. They have that experience. They've entered this, and they're performing. Granted, I mean, who's to say where in the lineup they're going to land? Because everybody can have a shit day. You know, shit can go south quick for people. Who knows? Yeah. But like, I think that is a big like check of like, oh yeah, experience. Because you can have experience in one body of water and kill it there. Wonderful. If that's your MO, great. But you can also have experience in various bodies of water and be part of a trail and then go to these other areas and be challenged and come back. And then there's those wild cards that are just like, I'm going to go and pre-fish. I'm going to get as much experience as I can, and then boom, they can hammer down, you know?
Where I struggle is with all this shit is that you get these local anglers, like we saw it for MAKB this year. They, even though they're paying a membership and they go out and they bust ass on their one pond.
Yep.
Then they don't show up for the other ones. That's a fucking dirty little money grab.
Yeah. It is.
Okay, so you're so good, show up at the other ones. You know, and then all of a sudden we find out what kind of an angler they are. You know what I mean?
And that stuff is also reflected when you're doing like, Angler of the Year points and shit like that, because that will show up. Like if you're only playing select stuff, you're just not going to accrue the points. You know,
but you're gonna have high finishes and it's gonna look just completely bizarre.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it'll be a big like red flag of like, oh okay, this makes sense.
Yep.
I see that a lot in the opens. You know, every open I do on every lake, there's somebody there they're only there because that's a lake they fish, and just like Sean said, it's a money grab from them. You know, like I try to do as many opens as possible with Spence's because I like the way he does it. And there's always somebody at each lake that you're not going to see at any other one. You know. So
yeah, they'll select it and say, I'm going to fish here because I know it well. I'm not going to fish here because, and yeah, you know, it's funny. I've had conversations with folks, and I'm talking about Adrian Peterson Daycare LLC, the trivia team that plays with me regularly. They kind of say the same shit. They're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to enter a tournament. You know, everybody in the country, blah blah blah. You know, and I'm like, it's fun. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Use your honey holes.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a point where you would want to use your honey holes for sure. But it's like, you know, I think that there's that mentality of like, maybe like when people see a post or a sign somewhere for an upcoming derb and they're like, oh, it's an open. Oh, it's at this water. Oh, well, now I'm interested because I've got the know-how. I could win that, you know? And I think in some ways, like there's a lot to be said for, you know, getting new folks interested in this kind of stuff. And I guess maybe the hope is that you do these opens and then folks will line up for your other events and then, you know, get a better turnout. But who knows? Oh, yeah, that's awesome. We didn't finish dead last. That's even better. Holy fuck. I thought we were dead last, but I was like, you know, what a good bag because for the only 2 fish, like we had quality, you know?
Yeah.
This is really good. Oh my goodness. You guys have anything you want to go over regarding the tournament?
No, we'll talk about it during tourney time. Yeah. I actually have something offline for you guys that's going to blow your mind. It clicked with me when you said something yesterday, Brody. Bobby, I'm not going to bring it up on air, but let's take a quick break, run over this, and then we got all sorts of stuff. And then we got duck, dude.
We got duck. Duck is happening.
When do we want to give the quick rundown of the ride back from North to Oxbow?
Right now.
Yeah. Let's go to it. Well, or should we do an FTG?
Your viewpoint first because you were the passenger and this was like your first time having to do a long run like that.
So, well, it's not my first time having to do a long
not your
run
first.
Like that. Yeah,
you get what I mean. Yeah.
So, and I want to throw a special shout out to another angler that has really been gracious enough to take me out on their boat and kind of give me a little bit of preparation for what we were dealing with here. And that angler is Ian Milanowskis. Ian, of course, owns the bass cabin that we've stayed at in the past. And Sean, you're staying at this weekend, aren't you?
I'll be up there this week.
Yeah, you'll be up there this week. Ian brought myself and Papa Beef out on he's got a new boat now, but at the time he had this Bass Cat, and there were windy conditions on Champlain, and holy fuck, like the bouncing around that I was doing in Joe's boat coming back to that run, that was the entire day at Champlain. Yeah, so I was like, this is nothing. I'm like, this is nothing. But I know Joe was like, fuck. And I gotta tell you, like, I've heard Sean say this, and I think the only way to sum up those wreck boats on the way back is there's no rules. There's no rules. This is Vietnam. There's no rules. Yeah, it's insanity. The jet skis, the pontoon boats just won't, like, they'll be in the worst position ever, and they're in no hurry to get the fuck out of your way, even though you're hurtling toward them at 60 plus miles an hour, you know, and you're like, okay, cool. I guess I'll go up on the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it was just, it was a mess. Stay tuned for FTG because that's going to be a doozy.
There was that one, and this is the last thing I'll say. There was the only one where there's a couple times where we're going probably 60 miles an hour at about 2 feet of water.
Yeah,
I look over and I tell Bobby to look over because you can see that gravel bottom.
It's just a blur of shit. And you're like,
yeah.
Well, what about that mark we saw?
Go ahead.
We saw that big mark where somebody dragged their skeg. Remember that?
Yeah.
Holy shit. And it had to go for like 200-300 feet. I mean, it was like, it was crazy.
Yeah. So
my dad's gonna kill me.
Yeah. And then there's that one time, that one bump that we hit where no shit.
Both of us out of our seats.
The prop had to have been close to being out of the water. I mean, we came so far off.
Yeah. I was airborne. I was reaching for the handle in front of me. I'm like, oh yeah.
But I felt like the entire boat was just going to shatter once we hit the water again.
Shout out to Skeeter for the unbelievably comfortable seats, though. Like that saved my ass and back. Holy shit. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That it does make the, $300,000 that you dropped in that boat fucking worth it.
Yeah,
man. Holy Jesus Christ. But yeah, it was wild coming back. And that's exactly what it is. Like we didn't have crazy wind conditions at all. I think we maybe saw 5 miles an hour for wind. It wasn't crazy whatsoever. So the majority of those runs in between spot to spot to spot were really smooth. And the issue that you would get were these morons in these boats that would just create this wake. And you were just like, bye, bitch. It got to the point where I was like waving at every boat as we went by, insulting them. You're a moron. You're a jackass.
Every time we hit one of those wakes, the only thing that popped in my head is that song. Jesus, take the wheel.
I was thinking of another song.
Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
Oh God. Let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, recap a bunch of stuff. We've got adjust the tip for you to talk about planning and exactly what I did for this trip. Did it work? Did it not work? Were there other things I could have done? You be the judge. And then we've got an FTG for you. I think you guys know a direction that this is going, but there's some good stuff in there. Like I said some shit to people. It was good. And then we've got in our bait of the week this week, we're going to talk about that bait that got it done over at Stockbridge Bowl. Big shout out to Chrissy Radwilowicz. And we have Chrissy this week in the beef seat. Guys, you're not going to want to miss it. Don't go too far. We got much more Jigs and Bigs coming back right after this. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. If there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy. where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frostbuddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frostbuddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frostbuddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters, located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut. Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories from Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yak Attack, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and many more. Financing options are available to upgrade you and your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Torres. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day risk-free trial, lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% with the code JIGSandBigs10 at checkout. Visit Torres.com to check out their selection. That's www.torege.com. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks.
Bobby and Sean now have a special presentation for us all. They'd like to give everyone just the tip.
Alrighty, guys. This week's Just the Tip is kind of odd because I'm just gonna kind of break down what my planning, what I was intending on for this trip. So first thing I did was I had looked at the weather forecast to see what we were going to be dealing with as far as conditions. And this is part of the reason why I waited until Friday, so I could get it a little bit closer up to date. So I was looking at clear skies, cooler in the morning, warming up fast, and we were also looking at very, very little wind. And I said, okay, so my thought was that I made the assumption that I was going to be throwing more subtle presentations. Probably going to avoid throwing chatterbaits and rattle traps going into it. So I'm thinking possibly a swim jig, probably be the most aggressive, finesse swim baits, Ned rigs, drop shot. And I'm planning this knowing that I was going in Joe's boat and I didn't want to take up as much space. What I had done was, my initial idea was, well, I'm just going to take my kayak box, my kayak bag, the feel-free bag I use, that has 5 different 3700 boxes in there. But you know what? There's a shitload of bloat in there that I'm not going to throw. I'm not going to throw my big swim baits. I'm not going to plan on that. I'm going to bring a couple. I don't need to bring the numbers, plus I had all these plastics. So, instead of, that money bag, I missed that money bag. That was chock full of plastics. I've been using this smaller BASS, it's almost like a lunchbox. It's great to just put soft plastics in, and that's what I've done. So I keep an excess of soft plastics there. I have 2 organizers now that I'm using for my soft plastics. I have one that's dedicated just to swim baits. So I have everything from 6-inch swim baits down to 2-inch swim baits, and they're organized in that booklet. And then I have another one that I use for worms, creatures, craws, everything else kind of goes in this one other binder to keep them kind of organized. So I decided what I was actually going to do was, instead of just building a single day box, I was going to build 2. I put 2 day boxes together and I brought all my terminal tackle. That's in a separate 3700 box. I have for bank fishing. I even considered the idea of just using that bag, my bank fishing bag, with a day box, with a smaller, streamlined box of terminal tackle that I keep in that bag, and just taking that. But I was just like, I want to be prepared, whatever the situation is. And earlier in the week, Reaction Tackle had a post advertising. They now have tackle boxes. 36 and 3700 size tackle boxes, waterproof ones. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. These are new. I'll go ahead and check that out. So I went and I ordered a 4-pack. They're sold in sets of 4. The sets are $39.99. You can check the notes of this podcast right here if you want to save some money at Reaction Tackle and get some of this. I had ordered that. I got some swim bait heads, some swim bait jig heads. I also got some like screw lock style swim bait hooks in 3/16 size, and was it 3/16 and ½ ounce? I think I got, or was it 1/8 and 3/16? One or the other, I forget. As well as a couple of other items that I just wanted to have on hand. And I this stuff all arrived Thursday night. I was like, this is beautiful. I can go and do something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I went and I reorganized all of my tackle. So now I have a separate box that is just jerkbaits. I have a separate box that is just crankbaits with a bill. I have a one of those, the Flambeau Tufftainers that have the open side. The open side houses spinnerbaits. The left side that is organized has rattle traps. And I've got things a little bit more dialed in. Once you should have seen my kayak. I should have taken a picture. I took all the boxes out. I reorganized everything, had them all laid out, and I had my 2-day boxes. I emptied. One of them was just an empty day box. The other one is the regular day box I use all the time. I emptied that and put all the baits where they go, and then I pick and choose each bait that I'm having. So I'm like, I hadn't seen the water in the main river. The visibility was better in the main river than I had anticipated. I had a strong feeling it was going to be better than it was in the Oxbow. That's just a given. So I go over and I decided to go with something natural and something light and something dark. So I took a spinnerbait that was white, a spinnerbait that was in the green pumpkin way, and then something dark that was black and blue, something like that. And then I added a second one of each. So I had a backup if needed. So like I said, again, I wasn't sure what the bite was going to be. I did the same thing with jerkbaits, a couple of jerkbaits, floating, suspending. I did the same thing with rattle traps. I did a couple that would fit in a specific color. Again, I wasn't planning on throwing these, but I wanted to be ready if I had to, if that was what the bite was. I didn't want to leave all this stuff behind. And that's what I'm getting at, was just streamlining it. So I had colors in presentations that would work with whatever the conditions were if needed. The big one for me was the soft plastics. So having all of my soft plastics available right there was a big deal. Now, one of the challenges that I have found when fishing as a co-angler on a big boat is rod management. Having a bunch of rods over the side of the boat without the protective sleeves on. The rods get tangled up. Switching rods out quickly is a little bit more of a challenge. So I for sure wanted to use this feel-free bag because I've got the installed rod holders on mine, which meant if I was going between a couple of rods, I could pop these in the rod holders and then quickly switch out. Man, did that come in clutch. That was huge. So I just left the box kind of like down where my feet would go and would sit with my feet on either side. And when we would do a run, that's when I would take the rods out. And when we would set up, I just set up what I was using then again. I had a feeling that I was going to be throwing a lot of stuff, a lot of soft plastics. So this is why it was important to me to have as much for my terminal tackle as possible. So I brought the big box. This box weighs so much. It is ridiculous. It is full of tungsten. It is ridiculous. So again, I went on, what did I have tied on? I had a finesse jig tied on. I had a finesse swim bait tied on. I had a Senko tied on, a stick bait. Specifically a sticko. And I had, what was the other one? A drop shot. This way I had those rods dedicated. I then brought my the rod that I use for a number of different things. This is my heavy rod. I brought this rod. It's a 7.6 or a 7.7 heavy with a moderate action. I had tied on there. I have my slowest bait caster on there right now, and on there I have a mag draft, a 6-inch mag draft tied on. Didn't think I was necessarily going to throw it, but again, wanted to be prepared. And in my box, I had another color of mag draft, should that be the bite, so that I could alternate. But in the bag, I had 2 different reels. I had one reel that was set up for topwater. I had another reel that was what was that other reel that I put in there? Oh, this is my frogging reel. This is a very fast reel with 50-pound braid. Should we be going that direction? And I had some topwater ready to go. If we made a decision and we were going to be, locking down in those pads at Oxbow, I was ready. It was just changing out the reel real quick, tying on a frog and going. Or if I was going to whip around a buzzbait, or if I was going to throw out on the open lake, out on the open river, if I was going to throw like a Zara spook, I had stuff to make it work. And that was important because that's the thing. Those 2 reels, one had a spool full of not fluorocarbon. One had a spool full of mono. The other one had a spool full of braid. All depending on what I needed. So I just tried to create, again, that spectrum mentality and having options and something to go to if need be. And I think this bag came in at a weight of like something like 30 pounds. It's ridiculous, man. You're probably about 30 pounds. I think that's pretty accurate. It comes in at when I picked it up, I was like, this is like lugging around one of these QSC K10s that I do every day. And I'm like, yeah, that's about 27, 28 pounds, something like that. So yeah, I was about in that ballpark. Paid out, worked great. I only went into those day boxes one time. That was it. I went into those day boxes one time when I wanted to switch from a finesse jig to a swim jig just to cover some water. And it was because we were fishing in some grass, and I'm like, yeah, this might get the job done. Spoiler alert,
it didn't.
But it was exciting, I mean, it can always be. There's always this moment of panic, or maybe it's just because I'm coming into this with only so much experience. But when I do a trip, I like to have as much as I can with me. And right now, all of those other 3,700 boxes are in the truck. So if I was like, oh, I got to make a change real quick, I can go and access all of that. And I plan on actually finding some type of a bag to keep all of these boxes together, because I kind of like the idea of having a handful of day boxes, and maybe one of those day boxes is just going to be shit with skirts, and one of those other day boxes is going to be hard baits. And this way, it's like I can carry a little bit less up front under the seat in the kayak, but I can keep the rest of my shit right behind me, ready to go. I don't know. What do you guys think I maybe should have done differently?
I think there's 3 ways to approach it. No, there's really 2. You approached it one way, and this is not right or wrong or whatever. It's a more comfortable thing. So you were very considerate of Joe's boat.
Yeah. Yes.
I brought everything.
Yeah.
I brought everything that would go in my kayak because I'm a creature of habit.
Yep.
And if I don't ever want to be in a position where I'm fishing for money and I say, well, I wish I would have brought that.
Yeah.
That kills me. So I didn't do that. I brought everything.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with doing it the other way either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's slimming down. You're making sure that your partner, isn't jumping over your tackle bag every time to get at something, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, Mr. Potato knows that I have the OCD and I do that.
Yeah.
I kind of have to. Otherwise I'll be freaking out and all pissed off that I didn't bring one fucking bag of worms that I use twice a year, but that's one of the days,
There was also an element in this specific planning where, because Joe and I had talked about it, but I was aware fully that I was fishing a tournament with the former owner of a very, very well-stocked tackle shop. And I had all intentions that if we needed anything, he's probably got it. And I was right. Absolutely. Like if it got crazy, we were probably pretty good. So that was in the back of my head too. But it was just one of these things like, I was like, I didn't want to not have a chatterbait if that was the bite. And I'm not going to not have a chatterbait in black and blue if I've got one in green pumpkin. You know what I mean? Like I want to be prepared as much as possible. In fact, moving forward, I'm actually getting rid of my jig box.
Oh, yeah?
Moving forward, that jig box is going to basically be another terminal tackle box because I'm going to be bringing bare jigs and skirts that I can customize on the water. It's something I've kind of wanted to do for a long time, but I was like, I made all these jigs. Look, I'm just going to put them in a box, and it's great, but I'm never in that box. With jigs, I don't lose, knock on wood. I don't know what this says about me as an angler, but I don't lose jigs the way I used to lose jigs. I used to need a dozen jigs when I went out. Now I need 2. I need one in one color, one in the other color, you know, and then a backup. I very rarely throw white, you know, like, cause we're not like, I don't, but there are some baits that work great in white that I like to have on hand. So like a rattle trap, a square bill, I like to have those on hand as an option. If it's like, fuck, this is dirty water, but the dark colors aren't doing it, let's go light, you know? And then I also like the versatility too. So like I've recently gotten into, I used to carry around JJ's Magic and use that for dips, for, you know, adding a little chartreuse to the tail of something. If I wanted to get, you know, more eyes on it, draw a little bit more attention to it, add some scent. I've changed that out now because I've smelled like garlic in inappropriate times. Now I just use the spike it. I use the spike it markers, and it actually gives me more versatility because I bought like a 3-pack, and I've got, you know, an orange, a chartreuse, and now a blue, so I can.
No, I'm sorry to jump in. I
Go
just
ahead.
got to make sure of this. Are you saying you smell like garlic inappropriately more than your average red-blooded Italian?
Yeah, more than. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true. I'll own that. You know, and it's like, you know, where like, yeah, I've had that, man. I have dumped so much JJ's Magic, and fucking, you don't want to do that on carpet. You do that in the kayak and it's bad for a little while. You don't want to do that on carpet. So I've been
None
using
of
the
that shit's even in my boat.
Yeah, no, you're smart, man. You're smart. I use the markers now, and I mean, I so much that I'll take a bait, like I'll use as an example, I'll use this Pit Boss, but like I do this quite a bit where like I only want to color these 2 inside appendages. So what I'll do is I'll pair them together and I'll fold these other ones back, and I'll actually take that marker right in my fingers, and I'll just draw right on top of it. And it is a cleaner setup than using an actual jar of liquid dip and having to dip those items in. The worst is like when you drip that shit on your clothes. Like I understand, don't get me wrong. Yeah. JJ's Magic works. Like it works, but it's tough to carry around. You know, you're gambling a little bit with that. So like the markers, I wish they made a marker. If JJ's made a marker, I would, fuck, there's money to be made there. Yeah, it was good. So that's how I planned it. It you know, for better or for worse, it's crazy because I do feel like everybody was catching fish on a wide variety of presentations. So I don't think that there was like a one thing, but it was more about mentality, you know, and you know, again, it was like I had a library of stick baits to be able to throw and that was one of the things that I immediately knew. I was like, what do I want to go into this with? What do I anticipate myself catching fish on? Well, finesse jig performs like crazy all the time. Almost, you know, it's a staple, and it's versatile. It's small enough where I can fish it in a Ned type situation. It's also big enough where I've got the power to be able to really jack a big fish if need be. So I threw a finesse jig on my jig rod. I threw a Senko on one of my spinning combos, right? On my sort of, I want to say like go-to combo for moving presentations. I really felt that a finesse swim bait was what was going to get bit. And I was wrong. You know, I was wrong with that. And then on my, you know, I keep a rod that's always got a drop shot tied on. And I was like, if it's truly just a real finesse kind of subtle bite, this I need to have on hand, primarily because I don't want to be setting up that rig to throw it. And I've done that before where I'm like, fuck, now let's tie a couple of knots, you know, and get this going. I'd rather have it at the ready. So that's why I have a dedicated drop shot rig, you know? And then that heavy rod was just like that was like my Frankenstein combo. Like it could do so much. So yeah,
Awesome.
That's where we're at.
Well, welcome to big boat tournaments, I guess.
Yeah. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. Are you guys ready for this? This will be hilarious.
Oh, forever.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Literally fuck every jet skier and wreck boat.
That's this week's Fuck That Guy.
Yeah, if you were on the Connecticut River yesterday in the East Hampton through Hatfield area on a recreational boat, like, fuck you. Like,
wow.
You fucking go back to whatever cave you came from and come back out on the water on the 4th of July, and we'll see you again on Labor Day. What the fuck is wrong with people?
It's not even like, if you have a wreck boat or jet ski, like, yeah, it's not my thing, whatever, fuck it. But at least follow the fucking rules.
There are no rules.
How
there are no rules.
How many times did we play chicken on that ride back?
Holy shit balls. And I'm like, they're morons. They're not going to do shit. I was like, this is on us. We got to make a call. There was one point where you were like, okay, I guess I got to go left. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the left. And for a second, I thought they were going right. And I'm like, shit, this could be bad. And then, oh my God, do we want to share the text message fiasco?
Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing. So later in the day, like, and I'm talking about, it was still absolute chaos. It was Vietnam over by the Oxbow Marina. There were water skiers, like crazy shit all over the place. We were trying to flip some docks off to the side and being courteous to these carp guys and trying to stay out of their lines. I go over and, we're sitting there and I felt like I was surfing on this giant skeeter, just the waves. It was crazy. I hear my phone go off and I look at it and I have a Facebook message from Mrs. Farmer Brown. She says, "Are you still fishing with Joe?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, we're probably about an hour left and we'll be heading to the launch, for weigh-in soon. And then she's typing and I'm like, oh, I wonder what's going on. So I say to Joe, I was like, "Hey Joe, your wife just texted me, man, on Facebook. What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, shit. Why don't you tell her what you said to her earlier?"
So it was right after, it was like right when we took off and we had like stopped for a second and she just like sent me a text. She's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, babe? How's it going?" I was like, "Fine, almost died." And I just left it at that. And like in my mind, I'm like, the context of it is much different from what how she took it. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's crazy here. Almost died. And, and what she's receiving is, some emergency, like, oh my God, I almost died. So what happened was I sent that text, forgot I had sent it. And then 2 hours went by where she was like trying to get the actual context of what was going on.
Exactly. I didn't realize it was that long.
And then I wasn't responding because, I had put my phone in the, phone spot in the boat and just like left it there. So she like went into freak out mode and Bobby's sitting there and we had just like got to a spot and I was like standing up about to put the trolling motor in, I believe, and you were still sitting. Yep. And you go, "Oh, Meg just sent me a message on Facebook." I was like, "My Meg?" He's like, "Yeah," like asking if I'm still with you. I'm like, "Oh no, that can't be good." But like in my mind, I was like, I'm thinking like, oh, there's an emergency at home. Not like I didn't even
wasn't even registering. Like,
yeah. And then I run down, I grab my phone, and I'm like, oh, Bobby, I fucked up. So I call her. And it wasn't even like a hello. It was a, you can't send a text like that and not give more context.
And this must have been just after we had gone through the melee. That was really for us. The worst of it was right before and immediately after fucking Rainbow Beach.
That is bad.
Yeah.
That was the worst. I mean, ladies and gentlemen that are listening to Jigs and Bigs, if you want to see a true Western Mass fucking freak show, take your boat over to Rainbow Beach and get some binoculars. It is insanity. It's like Tijuana North. I don't know how else to explain it. It is. You want to go and get endangered species? Go to Rainbow Beach. You'll find them. Like, oh my God, it is crazy. And like that's where it was. That was just, there were just no rules whatsoever. You just had guys in jet skis. I'm fairly certain that most jet skiers these days just do a rip of bath salts before they get on these fucking things and then just start zipping around, because there's like, it's chaos. They lose their mind. Like, and I even asked Joe, I was like, hey, I've never like known this, but like, what is there a general rule of like which way you should yield when you have two boats oncoming one another? Like, do you stay to the right, or is it reverse? All of a sudden we're like, the Great Britain rules. So like, no, stay in your left lane or something. Like, he's like, no, you stay to the right. Like, that's the way it is. And once I knew that, I was like, oh, all of these captains, and I use that term extraordinarily loosely here. All of these captains of these vessels have clearly had a lobotomy because they have no idea what the fuck their fucking right is.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep. It was
like
a nightmare.
Could you imagine and this is, it's for that reason that, like, I'll be honest with you, I don't take my kayak to Oxbow very often. It's for that. Because it's one thing to be in Oxbow, but like the fact that like just outside the marina, you have some idiot zipping around in an area that's, I'm sorry, it's too small for zipping around with jet water skiers and shit like that. I think that area is just way too small for that. You're fucking up everybody's day if that's the case. Like, even going in there in your kayak, I just don't think it's worthwhile for the bullshit. Like, maybe on like a Tuesday in October, but
it was
bad.
But at the same time, everybody was waving. Everybody was nice. And Bobby was nice. And Bobby was very nice back, right, Bobby?
I was waving in every boat, like, fuck you too, kiss my ass, kiss his ass, kiss this ass.
Much louder than that, though.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where I'm fucking dying. Bobby's like, oh, hey, how you going, you fucking idiot?
It's fucking great. I will say there was one moment, though, that was just the cherry on top. And it was as we were all just kind of idle in front of the launch in the chaos that was wreck boats coming in, wreck boats coming out, and all of these tournament boats trying to get out of the water. Now, this is a ramp that is the width of two trucks. You can launch two boats at one time at this ramp. You would think that for efficiency's sake, you would be good to go. I see this as a risk when you're like, of course they can back.
Of course they can back up a trailer.
This was just insane to me. So, of course, we roll up, and there is one pickup with a jet ski trailer, twin jet ski trailer, taking up the middle lane of this. So now you have what could be an efficient 2-lane ramp now being eaten up with one fucking truck to haul out two hunks of lake lice.
Yep.
And as they're setting up, they were actually launching. They weren't coming back in. They weren't on the way back in. These two jet skis, the truck was still fucking there, but these two jet skis are off to the side of the ramp. And I have a picture of one, and I think I posted it, or maybe I didn't post it. But I didn't. The post is incoming. I said to the pilot of said watercraft, I said to him, I go, that's a really nice looking wave runner you got there, man. He's like, hey, thanks. So I was like, is that FTG edition? He goes, yeah. I was like, you're a fucking moron. Holy shit. Oh, I'm assuming his name was Kyle,
Yeah. Maybe.
Get on. Kyle, get over here. It's your turn to hit this line of bath salts. Let's go.
So a funny part of the whole Meg thing I forgot when I got home. I go, I'm sorry I made you so mad. Like, she's like, no. I wasn't mad. I was relieved because now I don't have to figure out what to do with $100,000 boat by myself that I'm not going to use. And I go, no, babe, it's okay. Because if I wasn't answering you, chances are the boat was a total loss too.
There you go. Yeah, of course. Perfect. You're a problem solver, Joe. That's what it is. You're a problem solver. What was your experience like there, Sean?
Wow, the FTG stuff. It was a lot of, I think mostly mine was a lot of people going way too fast, way too close.
Yeah.
And that was over and over again. It just, I did wing a couple comments out pretty loudly to one guy went by in a large, an ocean boat, really, a big water boat, right? And he went by a small a group of people in a no wake zone with the throttle open wide.
Oh my God.
And I made a very loud comment. I can't even remember the context. I'm pretty sure it was about his dick size.
Perfect.
As he went by, he didn't care, but he almost capsized the boat next to him. And they were also in a bigger boat. And he went by them so fast at such a high rate of speed inside the Oxbow. There was no room.
Mm-hmm.
That was really the gregarious, the really bad one. Other than that, it was just general mayhem. People going too fast, too close.
Yeah.
So
unbelievable.
I hope nobody died out there yesterday. I haven't seen any news reports of such, but that was rough.
So there is this interesting, I just was reminded of this, Joe. I had some interesting postscript from my wife. Not about, losing, my life on the water or anything like that. She said to me, she goes, "Hey, have you ever fished Lake Winnipesaukee?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." She's like, "We should go up there sometime. There's boat rentals and we can do this and it'll be fun." And I'm just like, after what I just saw and what I've heard about Winnipesaukee, no thanks. Let's go and ice fish.
So yeah. So the biggest thing I learned yesterday is obviously Spence puts on a fucking phenomenal tournament. Yeah. I told you guys that, and that's why I like doing them. However, I did learn that I will no longer ever in the future of my fishing career do a tournament on Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, absolutely. That was insanity. We had, and I knew like launching wasn't going to be that crazy because a lot of those wreck boaters like to wait until they get 11 a.m. They start making their way out. They're a little bit late to the launch, which is fine. But I knew coming back was going to be crazy. And once they were on the water, it was just like, just let it fly. I even made a comment. I said, "Guys, we should all do this again. What are you doing for 4th of July? Labor Day weekend. Labor Day weekend. Let's give it a go again." Oh my God.
But a funny thing is when we were sitting there waiting, because obviously we had to wait our fucking turn for these jamokes to do whatever, so I could go up and get the truck.
Jamokes.
Yeah.
The dude bud had a word for these guys. Fucking ganipkanads.
Yeah. So the best part was obviously like you had the trailers taken up, but then you always see the person who just has no fucking clue what they're doing, backing up a trailer like they should not be doing it. And the worst one we saw was somebody from the tournament.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
I do. I do.
Speaking of which, when you guys were at the ramp, did you hear what I said to you? And I thought I was being funny, and I thought I was making you guys laugh, but I don't think you heard me because I thought I heard one of you say to the other, "What did he just say?" When I was waiting. Now I was a little nervous because that channel was clogged, and I was waiting for Andy to pull his trailer down onto the ramp.
Oh, by the way, you did a great job with that.
I've done it 1,000 times.
Yeah, you did a great job with that.
That's why I made the joke when I went by you guys, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm just making sure I don't kill myself or someone else." And one of you said, "Are you worried about this?" I said, "No, I'm a kayaker," and I just went right in. And that's what I heard you guys say. "What did he just fucking say?" "Are you like scared?" I said, "No, I'm a kayaker." Fucking zipped right up in there.
Ain't my fucking boat.
Yep. And I almost took Andy's leg off of that one too. So no, I didn't do great. He's like, "That's good. Cut the throttle." And I pushed it forward. I knew I was going to. I was like, "I'll get one more inch out of this." He's like, "Knock it off." So yeah.
Oh man. That's
so
awesome. Fuck those guys.
everybody.
Yeah. That's, Obviously, this is what you expect Memorial Day weekend. We're not morons. I know you guys are going to blow up comments on posts and stuff. Obviously, like, this is the insanity. All you can really do is just roll your eyes and make the best out of it, you know? Yep. But the fact that guy, when I said, oh, is that the new FTG edition? He's like, yeah! I was like, that is awesome. A little bit of an idea. Speaking of, like, FTGs and stuff, what do you guys think of this? What if we did a new, I want to say, like, almost like a sticker, like, just to kind of make it interesting and hand these things out, but make a design. Maybe that's an FTG citation.
Yeah, we should. I think we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah, and I was thinking of actually, like, maybe we could print some off and do them laminated, where it's just like you can just hand one to a jet skier and go like, here you go, I'm going to make a Jigs and Bigs famous. Boom. Can you sign your name? What are your social handles? You know, I'm like, hey, let's go the distance and hand them out. Like, oh yeah, public shaming. Maybe that'll be our contribution. You know, there's media outlets out there that do this. I was like, maybe we can do that. Shed a little bit of light on it. Be like, oh yeah, we're gonna take out the boat this weekend. You know, there was one other thing that I had mentioned, and this was early in the morning, before Brunel's got fucking crazy. I was flipping around. I think it was my Ned rig. And I was flipping around by docks, and there was a beautiful pontoon boat in one of these slips, and it was a Bennington. A Bennington. And I was like, oh shit. I got it, like, right at the rear end of the boat. Like, I landed my jig on the boat and it was kind of hung up there. So I was like, God damn it. I'm like, it's a really nice boat. And it's got a kind of a classy name, like Bennington. I go, you know that Babs. And then Joe was like, you know what, whose boat that is? I'll bet you it's Gail and Chaz's boat. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Probably Gail and Chaz. Gail, could you get me another, what was it, Tom Collins out of the Yeti, please?
Gail, where'd you go, Gail? Gail, where are you?
Gail overboard. What happened, Gail? And I'm like,
the wife can't hold her liquor anymore.
It was just one of those things where I'm like, you know, it's a really nice boat. They're going to be real assholes if I break this jig off of there. So we had to get pretty close, but I was able to kind of weave right out there. It was just kind of freaking nuts, man. I'm like, this is bananas.
When we're in the marina, how about when we're in the marina at Oxbow and you had those two guys that were pushing probably 95 years old?
Oh my God.
And we were right in there. I mean, we were those guys that everyone's like, look at these fucking assholes, but we don't care.
Yeah.
And so we're like fishing the slips. And these guys, old guys, like, hey, yeah, we're just going to be going right there. We're like, yeah, cool. So I like move over.
So I pointed to a slip. I pointed to it. I was like, this one? And he looked at me and he was like, yep. I'm like, all right, cool. So we're going down further. I thought we're good to go. And he's like, no, it's like the second to the last one. And I'm like, you piece of shit. I'm
the
like,
one we're right in front of now. And the only way you get out of there is to turn around.
I'm like, you're a fucking dumbass.
Chrissy's got a story for us. She said she went to our favorite haunted pond, and even that was a nightmare, which is amazing because that's tiny.
It is.
Bass boat guy was blowing by at warp speed, probably whipping by anyone catching because he wasn't. Memorial Day weekend sucks. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I've ever seen a bass boat on that pond.
I have.
Really?
Yeah, it was when I went there with Paul. There was a dude that launched his bass boat. In fact, there was a day you and I went to go fish a neighboring pond, and there was like construction. So we're like, let's go check this place out. It's during the day. We'll go check it out. And there were boat trailers there that time too. And like, but why? Like, you wouldn't even need to fire up your outboard.
No, that's all trolling motor. It's so small.
Yeah,
like, people are stupid. Like I said, that this. I don't fucking know. I don't know what's wrong with people.
You know, I fish.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Chrissy adds a little bit here. She says, the ramp's totally washed out. No clue how the heck he backed down there. I almost scratched my rim.
It's a dirt ramp.
Yeah. And yeah, it gets fucking abused over time. Like, there's no maintenance for some of that shit. I can only imagine. I can only imagine the bullshit people have been dealing with.
You'd have to pave that whole thing, and I don't think anybody's going to do that.
I don't think anybody's going to do it. Yeah.
Well, fuck that guy too, Chrissy. Thank you.
That's shitty, man. Yeah, it's just freaking wild. It really is. Fuck them. I got nothing else for them. I think maybe a sticker is in order. I think that could be freaking great. maybe a T-shirt to partner with it with a picture of the citation, and then it'll say, "I'm gonna make you Jigs and Bigs famous." That'll be a good one. All right, what do we got up next? What the fuck?
Bait of the week, baby.
Bait of the week.
Jigs and Bigs. Bait of the week.
There are certain tools that are available to anglers that a lot of people, I don't want to say that they get discounted as far as their effectiveness or anything, because actually in most situations, they are highly effective. But I feel like they get this reputation. Maybe they're just not the sexy presentation. You know, they're the things that like, yeah, that'll get bit, but I don't want to throw that because blah, 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 X, Y, and Z reason. The Senko is kind of like that in a lot of ways. The inline spinner is like that in a lot of ways. The Beetle Spin is 100% like that. Like it's treated like it's a novice presentation, you know? Yeah, anybody can catch fish on that. Well, so why wouldn't I want to throw that? If it's getting bit, you know, and it's making it happen. I got to tell you, the Beetle Spin is one of those baits that I have completely had previously written off as like, I am probably never going to throw this. I'm probably never going to throw this. I've got, enough finessey sort of presentations that I can utilize to get a bite that I'm probably never going to throw something like this. Holy fuck, did I have to eat crow on Monday? I just did. I did, because Chrissy has a knack, and you're going to hear this in the interview. Chrissy has a knack to lean toward more of the retro baits that are out there. And, some of these go 30, 40 years old, and you hear this a lot of the time. People will use a Beetle Spin. Like Sean said, oh yeah, I used to use those when I was when I was a kid, or, it's like those memories of like whipping around, name your favorite, early bait with a Zebco 33, something like that. It kind of gets lumped into that category, but I mean, they just perform. And what's nice about them, and Sean had made mention of this earlier, was the versatility that you have with them. We were throwing these on unbelievably light jigs. These jigs were maybe 1/32 of an ounce. I don't even think they were a 16th. I think they were that small. And between the weight of the arm for the spinner, the blade, and that little jig with that plastic, it would fall so slow, but it was so dainty and light that spinner was just whipping as it would fall. So it was great in that situation that we were fishing it in, where we had really clear water, and with that really clear water came a shit ton of weed growth. So getting something down into the weeds was awesome if that was what you were looking to do. But if you could see fish up out of those weeds and you needed them to come and bite what you were throwing, that lighter presentation was definitely the move. And, you could fish these really, really slow, and these smaller species that we were targeting would crush it. And let's throw out there that Chrissy that day, she caught her new PB on one of these baits. Like, you can catch big fish on small baits, and I think a lot of people discount that, thinking that it's a small presentation and, you're not going to, big baits don't just catch bigger fish. They catch all kinds of fish, but smaller baits always catch them all. They always do. And I think it's something that I would love to just get a couple to keep on hand. The customization, I think, is really the best part, because you can swap out that jig head for a variety of different sizes, Yeah.
A
variety.
You can fire it in with an extra wide gap lead-free Ned head. That's what we tend to use. Fire that in there. Those, I made mention, those Beetle Spins, like, they really are, when you take the removable spinner. Well, really, what do you call it? The removable,
I guess, the spinner arm, really.
Yeah, the arm off. They're really a Ned rig.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And we would, as kids, because there was no Ned rigs at the point, you just didn't do that. There had to be some sort of action or something. We were like, well, those will never work. And we never threw them like that.
Yeah.
Now it's fucking 90% of what I throw. But yeah, I mean, Beetle Spin's been around for decades. I found a pack that was packaged in the 80s or 90s, and I left them unopened in my little kind of, fishing memorabilia area in my basement. But yeah, they'll catch everything, man. Like it's one of those things that what's old is new again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like these lures never went away. They still work.
Oh yeah.
Man's manipulators I've mentioned on the show. I love them. I very rarely have success with them, but I love looking at them. They're pretty worms. And floating Rapalas I mentioned constantly.
Yeah.
I was using them yesterday. I didn't have any luck with them, but there will be a time this year where I will find a condition where they will be very valuable. So yeah. If you haven't tried a Beetle Spin, they still make them, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. You can still get them. I think they're available at like Walmart's.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, they are. The smaller ones are, aren't
they? In fact, you know what? Now, we had been talking about this on the show, and we have some content creators that are going to be working with us to do this. Namely, I'm going to name drop some. Namely, we've got Todd Grubb that's going to get involved with this, and we've got Alex Rudd. And we're talking about, I don't want to get too much into the details, but I think we could involve the Beetle Spin in this. I think that could be interesting.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. I swear to God, man, I have seen them at Walmart. I think you're right. I can't. I have to look up Walmart to. I'm going to look up Walmart right now and see if they have them. But Chrissy, they are available at Bass Pro and Cabela's. So
Chrissy chimes in and she says, "Oh, we swapped out the original lead jigs for the tin jig heads too. They were super light, and that's exactly it. Like it was, they were super super light. I mean, I think I was blown away. I love the fact that I had to eat my own words and go like, holy shit, this is right. And the fact that day I was just like, I'm throwing this on the wrong setup. I have to go with something a little bit lighter. And then immediately like a switch, ping, 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 ping. I caught a 17-inch pickerel on one of those, smashed this friggin' bait, and it was so clear, and it was at the boat that I could see it. Oh, it was so unbelievable. This pickerel on that like medium light combo was it was a blast, an absolute blast.
Yeah. I'm not seeing them online at Walmart. I could have swore they had them there, though. I think you're right, but whatever.
I think Chrissy told me that she's found some at Walmart, like looking around for them. Because I had mentioned, she said, "Oh yeah, this is the world's smallest spinnerbait," and I'm looking at them like, this is a Beetle Spin. I'm pretty sure. And then she had mentioned to me that she had either found them online or had somewhere, but she's like, they have those at Walmart. Maybe she's actually seen them in person, but
there is a chance. I can't find them. It might be one of those things that Walmart carries and then says must go in store to get, you know what I mean? Like I'm just not seeing it on the website.
Oh, they have them at Bass Pro.
Yeah, they have them at Bass Pro and Cabela's. Yeah.
Chrissy, they sell lead at Walmart. Everything. That's not the reason why they're not at Walmart. Walmart has plenty of shit that's lead.
Yeah. Walmart in our state, you can sell lead shit.
Yeah. 100%. You can buy lead anywhere. Times. Yeah, exactly.
But either way. So there you go. Try out a Beetle Spin, folks, especially if your kids are learning to fish. There's a good lure for them to start learning an action lure that's not super expensive. $1 or $2 will get you a 3-pack.
Yeah.
Fire them out there to get a couple different colors, see what works, get a couple different sizes. You're going to get bigger fish with the smaller fish. It's just like a Ned rig.
And actually,
you have that nice little spinner with it.
That's a really good tip. A lot of people will say when you're fishing with kids, take them out there and let them throw something like a drop shot or a weightless Senko or something like that. And a lot of those are just like you cast, you wait, they're slow. You drag it maybe a little bit. Like this is a chuck and wind. You know?
Yep.
And it's a chuck and wind with a small hook, which is generally a good idea. I think, speaking of hooks, I think it's in Chrissy's interview where she mentioned something about going out and fishing and not having any hooks on anything until she was of a certain age, which I think that's a terrible idea. Like, I mean, they make have you guys ever seen these like safety hooks that they have for kids?
No.
First time I brought my my daughters out to fish with me, my wife was very much like, "Oh my God, they're going to lose an eye. They're going to be whipping hooks all over the place. My God!" And there were, is it like a treble that fits in the bobber, or no? Maybe it's a standard single hook. And what happens is you set it up so that the bobber has a stop, and the hook and the bait the bobber will cover the tip of the hook while they're casting. When it hits the water, the hook then drops down and the bobber is released. So it avoids some of that potential for, your kids there whipping around trying to cast, like thinking they're fly fishing or something. Like it's covered completely by the bobber, by the float. And then when it hits the water, the bait then drops down with the exposed hook. It's kind of a cool setup. Yeah, it really is. Or the kid-sized adults like me. There you go.
Yep.
The Shakespeare Haida hook. That's what it's called. My son started out with those when he was 3. I started with my kids with those, and it was awesome. Let's go ahead, take a quick break, guys. We're going to be back. Next segment is, we have tourney time. What the fuck am I thinking?
This will be quick. Give me some drums. There's my drums. We were just discussing while I'm pulling up some information here. We were just discussing we might fool around with a little new intro for tourney time instead of just the Dothraki drums. We're moving past that.
We'll get cute with it.
Yep. Well, we're gonna start with the tournament we were all in yesterday. Myself, 3 of us, plus the loaded potato, plus dude, plus the butcher. And here's our top 5 for the day. And if I made a mistake, I don't care.
Fair enough.
We'll just go from that. But with 13.95 pounds, Dam and Germano. 15.33, Pavlicek and Art. 16.98, Clocker and Lander. That was 3rd place. Labar and Loss, 17.68 pounds, plus they had a 6.78 lunker, largemouth. Nice job. And then the winners of the tournament with 18.94 pounds and a jet boat, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Blazda and Roberts. Now, the important things. Where did we all finish? 15th place out of the 19 contestants. We had Bobby Roast Beef and Joe Brown with 4.03 pounds. 12th place, 7.29 pounds. We had Dude and the Butcher. And then 11th place, 8.25 pounds was myself and the loaded potato. So we all sucked, but we had fun. And I've got to wear fucking silly flip-flops because, again, I didn't catch that bigger fish, which would have put me over the top until 2:30. Our bet went till 1. Congratulations, Joe. Mm-hmm. You will see me in my fucking silly bass flip-flops on Lake Buell. Up next, just a quick reminder while I'm pulling up Fishing Chaos that we are open for registration for Chronic Trips. That starts in 4 days.
Yeah.
So jump in on that. Yep. Jump in on that. And, fresh and salt water, and the salt's starting to get a little more active now, folks. So please jump in. Now, Jigs and Bigs. We've had some movement because like I said, possibly threatened vaguely, Brant Rowland jumped in on this tournament. Brant is pretty much the record holder of everything with our tournaments after what he's done over the past couple of years. Brant spotted us all 2 weeks and now has 14 points. He's alone in first place. Dave Shade is alone in second with 12 points. Jerry Multihouse and Sam Tomaszek and Chris Mellowship, Chris from A-Bay, all 3 of them tied for 3rd with 11. Myself, Mike Hansen, Binya, and John Hagens all have 10 points. We're 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then Ryan Stager and Todd Sefton have 9 apiece. They are 9th and 10th. There might be more people with 9. I don't have a fucking clue.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of judging to do, it looks like, today. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, that's really all the notes on that. We got 4 days left, and I'll be in Champlain. So hopefully I can pull off a pike, maybe a catfish, and maybe a bowfin. That's going to be tough, but we'll see what we can do. The weather's going to have to help with that. Pike shouldn't be too bad. I should be able to snag a pike. I think about a pike every time I've been up there.
Mm-hmm.
But the bowfin and the the bowfin and the catfish might be tough. That's all right. Maybe I'll sit out and throw a line out at the cabin. We'll see how that goes. That's all I have. That's all I have for tourney time. We didn't have any MAKB Angler of the Year events, regular tournament events this past weekend. We did have a fun event, which I didn't even look at the details for. Ken ran a zone tournament.
I saw that.
So,
that's cool.
I didn't get to look at the results. Maybe I'll take a peek at it this week and we'll talk next week. But Champlain on tap for me. EKF. That's all I got. Nice and easy today.
That's freaking awesome, man.
And I'm hungry and I want to go to Bar Taco.
Me too. Let's go ahead. We'll wrap this sucker up. We're going to come back in our next segment. We've got Chrissy Radwilowicz in the beef seat. She's going to be talking about how she got her start fishing. We're going to talk a little bit about retro lures and all kinds of good stuff, man. I'm so psyched that I was able to be there when she hooked into her new PB. What an amazing feeling. I'm so stoked for her. But we'll be back with that and just a little tidbit at the very end you're not going to want to miss. We'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go too far. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jig heads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Okay, guys, Bobby Roast Beef here with Jigs and Bigs interview segment time. See, we have a full schedule, then it lightens up a little bit when there's fishing going on. But yesterday, I did some smart thinking. I was out on the water with one hell of an angler, and we were out trying to get some multi-species check marks on our list for our scavenger hunt, and we succeeded. We did all right. I was out with Chrissy Radwilowicz, and you guys know her. She's a jig head. She pops up in the comments every so often while we record the show. She's a regular now in the Jigs and Bigs office or our little ether, and we're glad to have her on. Chrissy, how are you?
I'm good, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing fantastic. I slept like a baby after battling that wind yesterday. I got home from trivia. I made some dinner, and I was passed out. And if it wasn't for my derpy little gray Boston Terrier pushing me off the bed, I would have slept wonderfully. But, so I think I'm going to need a nap maybe today. We'll see what happens. But yesterday was awesome. It wasn't
totally awesome.
So let's go ahead and we'll do this because I've been kind of sharing this video that I recorded yesterday a little bit. That was your new PB that you caught, that giant largemouth?
Yes, it was.
That is awesome. Let's first off, I love a PB alert. I absolutely love that. I had taken some liberties. I don't know if you saw the finished video, but I had put a bunch of bleeps in there using some effects on just to kind of add a little bit more comedic something to it. And it is awesome. And I sent a version of it over to Cheryl, Northeast Wild Woman, who handles our Western Mass Fishing Report. And she's going to put it in the fishing report.
I'm not responsible for my language when catching a new PB.
Fair enough. I did everything I could to keep it work safe, and I added extra bleeps to make it seem like that crazy. It was good. It was so good. That was an absolute beast. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it is just for those of you that don't know, by the time this drops, I'm sure this video will be posted on Chrissy's social media and on mine. You guys have to see this. It is awesome. It's such a great moment. I feel how Chris DeBari must have felt when I caught my new PB and he was with me. I live for that. I'm a big fish guy, like numbers are awesome. And I understand quality fish adding up in a tournament and stuff. But like when I catch like the biggest fish of the year or the biggest fish so far, yeah, it just does something for me. Yesterday was wild though. So I'll go ahead before we get to like the first interview question. Like I'll set the stage of like what we had going on yesterday. Now you and I are both enrolled in the May multi-species scavenger hunt tournament on Fishing Chaos that we put on alternating months. And you and I had a couple of the same fish that we kind of needed to track down. And thankfully, because of MAKB and the pre-fishing and the tournament and everything, it was discovered that there was this one little spot where there was a plethora of multi-species.
Oh, yeah, that's an understatement.
Oh, my God, I couldn't believe it. And actually, I thought, I'm honestly, you know, I know that Sean's not exactly one to exaggerate anything, but like I kind of thought that maybe there was a slight exaggeration, like maybe these are just species that were in there, but I was amazed by what we saw. In fact, I probably could have gotten all 4 points that I was looking for out of that body of water. I would have had 3 out of the 4, except for that rock bass debacle.
The rock bass extravaganza.
It was like a buffet.
Back to back.
It was, and none of them hit the 8-inch mark. And then same thing for those yellow perch. All the perch that were chasing my bait and like nipping at the tails of my swim bait initially, they were like all 4 inches. It was ridiculous. So they wouldn't have done anything for me. But I mean, I managed to get a couple of points. You picked up a few points though too.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. That is really awesome.
And too bad I didn't need a rock bass because I think I caught another 30 at least.
If I caught 20, you caught 50. That's pretty much what it gets down to. And it was that kind of day. Like it was fantastic. So, you know, like I said, I'm still looking for a couple of points that are out there. So today I looked to the internet for assistance. Half of the battle with this is finding the waters where there's an abundance of the species of fish that you're looking for. Not just them being present, but like, you know, an actual abundance of it. So I put a post up in Western Mass Fishing on Facebook just like moments before we went live. And I've already got comments coming in, but I just said, hoping you guys can give me some type of a heads up. I'm looking for a pond with a ramp that's ridiculously overloaded with perch, yellow or white or rock bass. Doing a multi-species scavenger hunt, and I need to cross them off my list. Was up in Stockbridge on yesterday and managed a boatload of each, but none of them met that 8-inch minimum. I have one. What somebody suggested Goose Pond. I'm gonna have to research.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Goose. It's not bad during the week for sure. The weekend it's a little heavy with wreck boat traffic. But.
Oh, really? Okay, that's perfect because that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at either tomorrow or Friday, or potentially both. I might be out fishing that day. I would go this weekend, but I have plans this weekend. I'm fishing. I will be the role of Wild Bill fishing will be played by Bobby Roast Beef. Is what's happening this weekend. So in that Berkshire Bass tournament that Joe and Sean are going head to head in, I'm going to be fishing with Joe because Bill is unavailable, unfortunately. So, and I think his backup. I think I was the C team. That's where we're at these days. So we'll make it happen. So I'm just curious how Sean doesn't know.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't know. So I'm just going to roll up. I'm sure he's going to see my truck in the parking lot and be like, what the fuck? You know?
Have those bass slippers ready.
Yeah, I might have them. I might have them on hand. I might just do something funny with them and we'll see what happens. So there's got to be some content. Although I don't want to mess around during the tournament. Maybe I'll record some content afterwards. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think I'll do it that way. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So I think let's dive right into it. You know the deal. I'm a sucker for an origin story. And yesterday you said something that was kind of interesting. You said that you had gone back and forth to fishing, but you keep coming back to it. Like you change hobbies, but you keep coming back to fishing. Tell me about how you were introduced to fishing, how it all sort of started, and kind of like walk me through the point like where we are today. And also along the journey, like what other stuff did you get into and then you got back into fishing to what degree?
Okay, cool. So I started out probably, like 2 or 3 with my first little Barbie pole. And my dad would take me fishing. And I actually just found out last year that they didn't put a hook on my line. I was like, what the heck, you guys? So it's like age 5, I probably didn't have a hook, but after that, it was fair game. Started out, with my dad and my uncle. They had a lake house out in Palmer, so I would go up there a lot. Also, it was a totally residential area, but growing up down the street from my house, there was a creek. And we would just get all kinds of, brook trout and, big fat shiners. So I would whittle myself a little fishing pole out of sticks, steal my mom's thread from the drawer.
Nice.
And, dig up some worms from the yard and go fishing all by my onesies. Yeah. So it was a lot of, learning from my dad and my uncle, and then, self-taught over the years, I guess you could say.
Now, were you when you were younger? I mean, obviously, like lots of times when you're young kids, you're not targeting any species or anything like that. But what was it that your dad and your uncle would mainly focus on when they were out fishing?
Pretty much anything, I guess you could say. Just looking to get a bite. My dad, would occasionally, chase bass, but it wasn't really his target species. And actually, I grew up, once I got a little bit older, I spent every summer at the Cape. And my dad had a boat back then. Yep. Oh, yeah. So I transitioned, from creek fishing to the salt. And I spent, up to my teenage years were on the salt.
That's awesome.
Chasing stripers and, oh my gosh, sand sharks in the bay.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. It is the Bay State after all. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's what like saltwater fishing is just a whole other sort of animal. Now, how did we get into the point now where because you're busy, you've got a lot of stuff going on. How is it that you got to the point where you discovered tournament fishing? What was the inspiration or the catalyst to kind of take that leap?
Yeah. And actually touching back on what you had just said a second ago, as far as hobbies, I would bounce around from hobby to hobby, but always come back to fishing. And actually at one point I even worked for a dance competition company, traveling and going to all these different states. And it was really cool. I met a lot of awesome dancers. But then it was also I'm going to bring my fishing pole with me. And, the only girl in a dance competition company, but show up in a truck and with a fishing pole.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, geez, can't go up to Lake Erie and not have a pole with you.
You might as well. I mean, come on, you only live once.
That's right. YOLO. So, I did a lot of that stuff. Just fished pretty much all over, just what I could catch. But then I didn't find tournaments until I was looking for another new hobby. And I had gotten a kayak.
Oh, okay.
And so I drove up to New York. I found a heck of a deal on Facebook Marketplace for a used kayak. It was a new canoe pursuit. And then I just happened to Google kayak tournaments for fishing. Because I was like, well, I'm never going to get a bass boat, not yet. And boom, 2 days later, I did my first MAKB tournament.
That's nuts. What a way to turn and dive in head first.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah. And it actually turned out to be the worst weather. It was, I think I got put at Lake Chauncey. It was the overflow for A1.
I remember that.
Oh, it was
wait, that was last year?
Mile per hour winds.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It was insane. It was pouring. But, I was out there with my fishing poles, my paddle. I didn't have a motor or pedals like I do this year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I was paddling in that nightmare.
Oh, man, that is crazy.
And I actually was on the leaderboard. And it was pretty crazy to me.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. It was the beginning of the day. I want to say by 10 a.m. I was in fourth. And then, then the wind and the waves just got to be to the point where it was really unsafe. And I mean, I had the kayak for 2 days, so
yeah,
I pulled out, but it was like, wow, like maybe this is a thing that I could do.
That's pretty freaking cool because, and I always wonder, like, when it comes to like tournament anglers, like, Sean uses this example where like he'll talk about how folks they'll join a trail, and they'll get into it and they'll go and, maybe there's a bunch of hammers that are on that trail and they just end up getting like their ass handed to them. And they're just like, yeah, this isn't for me. I'm out of here. And that's it. Or the other side of it, they get into a trail and the trails just run like it's a shit show, basically,
Right.
And it's just a total mess. And then people get turned off from it that way. You picked one hell of an organization because I think MAKB, I think MAKB operates at like, and it's built different. I think that's what the kids would say. MAKB is built different, which is great. But my thing is now I wonder if like the fact that you placed anywhere on the leaderboard is awesome. That's better than my first in-person tournament that I've ever had, for sure. But had it been any different, like, do you feel like making that little, like putting that check mark on, like, yes, I've accomplished this, was that enough to push you forward? If it like, let's say you took a skunk or something or whatever, would that have swayed you?
Well, it's actually interesting that you say that because I actually just went out to Cayuga, Lake Cayuga, New York.
That's right.
Yeah. My first event with EKF, Elite Kayak Fishing, which is, a much bigger field of anglers and, a lot of big names. I mean, I heard that even Greg Blanchard was fishing this event.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, this was a totally different kind of ball game with a huge body of water. It took like 2 hours to drive from the north to the south end of it.
It's insane.
Oh, yeah. And I think as soon as I got there, I felt overwhelmed immediately.
I totally understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, same thing again. I just had the pedal kayak, the new Old Town, for about a week, not even before I went up there. So I think it's sort of like getting the skunk there was like, oh my gosh, like I got home and I was like, do I even really know how to fish? So, I went out there the very next day and, caught a behemoth, that I had on Instagram. And it's like, okay, so I think people, and myself too, like get overwhelmed by, the competition aspect of it.
I agree.
And the one thing I definitely learned, like with Cayuga and getting the skunk there, is that I didn't trust my gut instinct. Like I knew I should have gone and fished the north. Like I knew that that's probably where the bass would be spawning. But, I didn't trust my gut. I just launched somewhere else and said, oh, I'm going to wing it. But, I knew what to do and I didn't use that knowledge.
Yeah. And it's
so
tough.
I think like, getting overwhelmed by a body of water, you have to like go back to the way basics. I have a tournament coming up again, Lake Canada. And the first thing I did is I brought it back to like basic. I walked around the lake, checked out the bait fish, checked out like, where I saw fish, where I saw like the bluegill and everything, like what's going on in the lake. And I'll do that. And then I'll bring the kayak out, and the fish finder, because that's all brand new to me too. I never really done that before.
Yep.
And, I think just like breaking down a body of water, like start from the absolute basics. And, then you're going to feel more confident going into a tournament.
Yeah. And I think I think you nailed it right there. Like breaking it down, because that goes with something I try to say all the time. Keep it simple, stupid. You know? It really is. Like sometimes you just get wrapped up in your head, and it's funny because there's another saying I use all the time that hindsight is 20/20. So I can remember like my first experience. I know exactly where I went wrong. Went wrong. Doesn't mean that had I had broken it down a little bit further and gone back to basics at this body of water, yeah, maybe that's a gamble. Who knows? You never really know. Yeah. But like, I think that's really, really important. Sometimes like just getting out of your own head is a big, big deal. But You're killing it. I'm psyched for you. Like I've always said, you know, with this show, one of the things that I wanted to make very apparent was that we're 100% like in full support of all anglers. And, you know, the fact that you're out there doing what you're doing and you're awesome, you're a great angler and you're hilarious. Like we've had so many good times fishing. Like when we went bank fishing a few months ago, not even a few months ago. Was it like April? Oh my God. It was unbelievable.
That was fun.
It was a blast. Unfortunately, that was a terrible day for that body of water. That body of water has since performed huge for me, but man, bank fishing there can be tough. It can be a grind. What is your, so your PB, you just caught your PB. It was what, 20 and a quarter?
Yep, that's right.
20 and a quarter. An unbelievable fish. And you're probably right. Like that son of a bitch was chock full of eggs, bloody old tail, probably hit 5 and a quarter.
Oh,
I'll bet you. Like, yeah,
definitely.
that was a thick fish, and you guys can check it out. Like I said, you can see the video yourself. But wow, unbelievable. Let's talk about like your preferred, as far as like presentations, confidence baits, and things like that. What are your preferred methods and confidence baits? You know, like if you got to get it done, because you and I were throwing around a bait yesterday that I would have never ever considered to throw. But it worked like a charm. It was exactly what we needed for that moment, you know?
Yep. Well, I mean, with that I kind of figured that out. Like that, the fish wanted a little snack. You know, they didn't really want to chase a big bait. Like I would, when I pre-fished there for a tournament, I found that I would get a lot of follows. But, not a lot of bites. And I was like, well, I know I'm using the right color. I know I'm doing something right here, throwing a big spinner. But, just like either what kind of mood I'm in, I'm going to throw something different, or like what the fish want.
Yeah.
I mean, I love, finesse fishing. I love, just throwing a wacky, skipping under a dock. But, if that's not what the fish are biting, like I'm not going to do that all day, because then I'm going to get frustrated.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned yesterday that you have a love for retro lures.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is awesome. Because like the beauty about like retro baits is that, number one, like they're baits. They still perform. They perform wonderfully, but they make great little collector's items. Like I have a little collection going of really, really, really old plugs that I just want to use for some type of a project. Hint, hint. I'm hoping that eventually Jigs and Bigs will have a video component and I can incorporate them there. So that's sort of the goal.
Yes.
But
yeah, like try out the old vintage lures and, see what hits them.
It really is like very interesting. And I mean, I think that that thinking out of the box sometimes, and again, sometimes it goes down to keeping it simple. When I was at Moosehead with Delirious, that's what I needed to do in order to get bit at that pond that we ultimately ended up finishing the day off at. I was throwing a big inline spinner, like a big half ouncer with like a number 5 or 6 blade, a huge copper blade. And it was just every single bite was just right on that in the same situation. I was able to figure something out with it. And it was just one of those things where, and it's so funny too, because it's inline spinner. I was at my trivia event last night and we bumped into Thomas, one of our competitors who is in the multi-species scavenger hunt with us. And he was over at Oxbow on, was it Sunday? Yeah. When we recorded the show, it's on Sunday. And we were talking, and he was like, yeah, he's like, so, what do you usually use, for this and this and that? We're just talking gear and all kinds of stuff. And he mentioned, he's like, for the longest time, all I did was fish exclusively inline spinners. And I told him, I was like, what's funny? This last handful of months have been just this crazy resurgence in, oh yeah, these are legitimate baits. I mean, they get it done. They get it done in cold water. They get it done in pressured water. And there's a lot of variety out there, from like the small little 16th ounce or 3/32 ounce, 1/32 ounce, cocktail spinners to like the big, like 1/2 ounce or the ones with the double blades. I've got a couple of those too. And, it just goes, I think it goes to show that you can't discount something because it was a trend X amount of years ago. Like it's still valid.
Definitely. Oh yeah, I agree.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And like my favorite thing to do in the summer is to like hit up estate sales and buy like all really retro lures. And actually one that I was at this past summer, the gentleman said, I'll sell you all of this for $30. And, I'm like, oh my God.
Lots of times you just
want to get rid of it. And he's like, but there's, a caveat here, you need to use it. I don't want to see it sitting on a shelf. This was my father's and then it was passed on to me. And he goes, I don't want it to sit on a shelf. I want someone to use it. I said, oh, absolutely. I will use every single one of these. And, I have like a bamboo fly rod from the 40s, which is like sacrilege to use. But, oh my God, it's so much fun.
Why not? Yeah, exactly.
That's what it was made for. So
that's awesome. Now, what is your favorite season to get out there and fish, like specifically for creature comforts?
Actually, summer.
Okay. Yeah.
Like those like dog days of summer when it's like crazy hot, not even, maybe a little breeze out on the water.
Yep.
Just like roasting in the sun. I might be crazy, but I love that.
It's funny too, because I'm a guy who I don't like the heat, like the excessive heat, like crazy humidity, anything like that. But you put me on the bank with my gear or you put me in my kayak, don't care at all. It doesn't bother me one bit, but once we're done fishing, I'm like, where's this AC? I got to get out of here. This is too much. It's wild how like it just changes your perspective. So I could definitely see that. And some folks they like summer is their thing, It's wild.
I would definitely say that is me. I am a summer person.
Mm-hmm. As far as like the bodies of water that you kind of lean toward, are you more of like, pond hopping more your thing? Are you more into big lakes that you can kind of break down over time and sort of learn and kind of dedicate like a portion of your efforts to? Or are you one of those people that's like, nope, I got to keep it fresh all the time. I'm looking for rivers. I need current.
I would say it depends on what kind of mood I'm in or how far I want to go.
Yeah.
I live in the Berkshires, so there's a ton of great bodies of water around me.
Definitely.
But also in the summer, they're heavily, wreck boats, jet skis. And it's been getting, more and more over the years. So like, I would say that I am on the big lakes and everything until the tourists show up. And then I stick to ponds. I try new water. I had mentioned to you before, I do like, if I find one that's on private property, I reach out to the owner and say, hey, can I fish your pond? And, normally, like they say, yeah, go ahead. Like, can you also like, check on my flowers while you're there? Sure.
There you go.
So, yeah, I like, trying new bodies of water, but, as far as like breaking down a lake, that's really fun too. And that's new to me to try so many different bodies of water. So that's another thing that I love about tournaments.
Oh, 100%. I love, I think it was when we recorded the last episode, I think you mentioned in there that you look forward to new bodies of water. And I'm the same way. I love, what I like about it is because I go to a new body of water with zero expectation. Like even if folks have talked it up, I usually just like another old saying, talk is cheap. I kind of just leave that in the back of my mind, but it's the mystery of that new body of water. Like what's going on over here? What can this produce? Let's find out. And sometimes like I'll go to a new body of water and I'll get skunked, but that just fires me up that much more to sink a little bit more time into like research ahead of time and learning things. And there's places I have not figured out simply because I've only gone once. And it takes a little bit of time, but man, that is it for me. Are there any like pet peeves in fishing that really get you that you've got?
Well, I mean, I hate to go there, but I'd say like as a lady angler, I'd say it's it's one of those things where all I want to do is just fit in.
Yeah,
I don't want to be seen as the woman fishing. I just want to be seen as someone fishing,
as one of the anglers.
Yeah, just one of the guys. And actually, it's funny because our first outing with MAKB after the Cheshire Reservoir tournament. We all, sit down, have a great dinner. We're all laughing. And then at the end, one of the guys said, "So how does it feel to be the only one?" And I'm like looking around like, the only one what? Like, what are you talking
You're totally
about?
oblivious to it. You're just like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So, I don't really like that, differentiation of being like the woman in the sport. Like, I just want to be in the sport.
That's exactly it. And there's a different spot for everybody. And I think it's all valid. It's all stuff that, you got to take into consideration. I think our circle does a really good job of just being as inclusive with all anglers of all abilities. At least that's something I try to do with Jigs and Bigs, whether it be from the tournament standpoint that we do, or just even just the variety of guests that we have. I try to really keep it all mixed up because everybody's an angler and what works for them works for them. All right. So for this next one, this is one of my favorite things about fishing. It's the community aspect. I think the camaraderie, whether it be, after a tournament or just getting together with your buddies and, going or taking a big trip, the camaraderie that goes with it at all elements is my favorite element of the outdoors in general, but specifically fishing. I assume, that you probably enjoy fishing with other folks too. Who are your top 3 people you would absolutely love to fish with? And they can be living or dead. They could be, you name it. It doesn't matter. They could be celebrities.
Okay, so I would say that my first group would be Gravy Fishing.
Yep.
Rings Outdoors and Delirious Angler.
Those are your favorites to fish with, huh?
They are my wolf pack.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, that they kind of took me under their wing and let me into their group. When I joined MAKB, and I just feel like one of the guys. And I'm just so grateful for, the community as a whole, but also for these guys for, taking me in right away as soon as I got here.
They're all awesome dudes. I've had had the opportunity, I've fished with Delirious a bunch. We've got stories. I fished with him a bunch. He's a character. He's as genuine as they come. He is fantastic. And I think with Gravy, I used the term salt of the earth in an episode. Gravy and I have fished a handful of times too, and he's absolutely awesome. We went actually to that body of water that you and I had bank fished. Last summer, Gravy and I had slipped the kayaks in there. We spent a good, 7 or 8 hours out there, covered every inch of that. We had such a great day. It was awesome. And we went to go stuff our faces on with burgers. It was great. That's because to me, that's the follow-up to fishing is always so what's the food situation all about? I've fished with Nick at Buffinville. I think that was the first time I fished with you. And I know I fished with him in other events. I'm fairly certain he's but all 3 of them great anglers, and bring something to the table. It's just it's so cool. So let's get to it. Let's get to the food situation.
Yeah,
I have fished up the Shears a good number of times. It's one of my favorite places to be. So in your area, and I've eaten at quite a few spots up there, and I'm curious if our wires are going to cross here, but whether you're celebrating an amazing day on the water with just a fantastic meal, it could be a breakfast, a lunch, whatever, whether you're celebrating it or you're just drowning your sorrows in a day that was just abysmal, where is it that you're going?
Well, I would say probably dinner, the Knox Trail Inn in Otis.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that love that there.
Oh, yeah. And then breakfast, actually Papa's Healthy Food and Fuel. It's a little gas station in the center of Otis.
Really?
Oh yeah, and their deli. Oh man, they make the best breakfast.
Wait a minute.
Every once in a while, they do like the prime rib grinder.
I think I've been to Papa's.
Their food is so good. It's just like the perfect breakfast. You can like call an order ahead, or they have like a little bit of everything ready in the morning. So like if you're in a hurry, you can stop there. They can have, crawlers at the counter, so you can get your night crawlers and get a sausage, egg, and cheese to go.
I think I've been there before. I think I've had a sandwich there before.
Yeah, their food is really good. Oh, I love their Reuben.
And a little secret tidbit is that the Knox Trail Inn has 3 times reached out to me to do trivia. And I either don't have the availability, or like the first time they didn't like the price. And the second time and the third time I didn't have the availability to give them. So
yeah, they're trying to, they have new owners now, actually.
Yeah.
So
really?
They're trying to, I think just a few years ago now, it changed hands to a group of owners. And so far, I think they're doing a really good job with the place. A friend of mine is the new chef there.
Yep. I've heard great things.
The food is amazing now.
Yeah, that's awesome. The place I was curious if you were going to mention, I think it's called Aussie's Steak and Egg. I think it's called Aussie's. I'll have to look it up, but like, I forget where it was. What was it? Paul and I had fished at, was it Yoakum? No, it wasn't. It wasn't Yoakum. I forget what it was, but it was in that area. And there was a recommendation that came through, and I want to say it was called Aussie's Steak and Egg, but it was out of this world. Like, we were blown away. The fishing sucked. We each caught one at like on the way back to the ramp, and that was it. I mean, it was a grind, and it was freaking nuts. This is a question I don't bust out that often, and I'm going to throw it at you because I'm curious. What is your most unusual talent? And it can be either fishing related or not, or both.
Oh gosh. I guess you could use that saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Oh yeah.
It comes off as surprising to a lot of people that I'm into construction. And then also airbrushing. I have had like every job you can possibly imagine. Like insurance agent, I've done that. Airbrushing T-shirts and hats at an amusement park. Nice. Yeah, I've done that too. Like I've traveled the country working for a dance competition company.
Yep.
I kind of have done a little bit of everything. So like I have the most unusual hobbies. I used to be a piano teacher.
Really?
I can play the piano. It's
holy
like,
shit.
What haven't I done? Like, I think that would be the better question. Like I worked in the school system. That's a good question.
That's a wild list of unusual talents. That is awesome.
Yeah. I guess you could say I do a little bit of everything.
You have to,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think in this, like the hustle economy, you need to get by. You've got to have something to offer, and that's good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this also kind of goes with, I have ADHD, which, I'm very upfront about because a lot of people have it and it's not really talked about, like being diagnosed as an adult. And it helped me so much, sure. Knowing that and knowing why I bounce around, from hobby to hobby and can do like 36 different things in a day and have 36 different thoughts in a minute. So, bouncing around and doing like all kinds of different things is like super fun for me. And it also, just broadens like community, I have so many friends in different like walks of life. And I think like that's really cool, like to do like so many different things. And
for sure.
It's really fun.
A little birdie told me you're quite the coffee aficionado.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. A little birdie had told me that you're quite the coffee aficionado.
Actually, funny story.
Okay.
I am a coffee spiller.
Yeah.
It's kind of the running joke that every time I get into my kayak, I either spill my coffee all over the bank, the kayak, myself, or something happens with my coffee. So I don't know what it is. I have terrible luck with coffee. Mm-hmm. I have not made it out on the water with a coffee intact yet.
Really?
Really?
Oh, that is awful. That's although I get, getting in the kayak, like when I was getting in my kayak yesterday, I had my cup and I was ready to go and I got in and I was like, I can't believe I didn't spill a drop. Usually I'm spilling a little bit. That's part of the reason why I like to leave my scupper plugs out so I can just drain it. I don't have like black coffee floating around everywhere. And maybe it kind of draws the fish in a little bit. That's what I'm thinking.
This is true. I mean, there are coffee scented lures.
All of the Strike King stuff has that coffee scent to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a thing. What is your go-to bean? And follow-up question, do you have a favorite local roaster?
Actually, I would say that is the same place.
Oh, okay.
Papa's gas station. I mean, it's so convenient for me.
Yep.
They use the Pierce Brothers coffee.
Oh, Pierce Brothers is great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I love to start the morning with, a cup of Fog Buster.
I've 100% been there before. God, I know I have. Yeah. I've 100% been there before and been like, yeah, the coffee's pretty great here. Pierce Brothers is really good. Have you ever had Monsoon Roastery?
I haven't, no.
All right. I think you and I need to do a coffee swap.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you some beans. Do you prefer a light, medium, or dark roast?
Medium or dark.
Medium or dark? You're like my wife. I'm a light roast guy now. I don't know what it is, but I had when I was in Maine up at Moosehead with Delirious, I had brought up this. It was a light roast Colombian from Essalon Coffee Roasters. And it was the guy, I think he was the owner. He and I were talking, and he's like, well, how are you brewing it? And I said, I percolator, because we're camping. And he's like, he goes, you got to go Colombian. He's like, I'm gonna throw you like half a bag just so you can try it. And this man didn't lie. Holy cow. Something about a light roast, it's a little bit more like you taste the bean versus the roast. And my wife, like, I brought in, I had a bag of Mexican light roast, and she drank it, but begrudgingly. She was just like, I just like a darker roast. I don't know about this. And then, we're a coffee household. My oldest daughter works at Starbucks and brings home their beans, which get a terrible reputation, but it's not too bad when you're brewing them at home. I don't know I don't know what it is about their beans. People hate Starbucks, but when you're brewing their beans at home, it's pretty good.
Yeah. See, I like Starbucks, but I'm not like a regular Starbucks like fancy coffee drinker, but I do like their espresso.
I think their espresso is fantastic and
totally.
consistent as hell. Like I'll go and my order when I'm at Starbucks is usually a hot Americano. Usually.
Yeah. I also like the Death Wish coffee.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. Their dark roast.
Funny story about Death Wish coffee. The first sip I ever had of that coffee, I got an instant nosebleed. So
oh dear.
Yeah. Instantly. I was like, what? Okay, this is a bit too much caffeine, I think. I think it was just one of those things. I remember I was driving my oldest daughter, this is back when she was like middle school, and I was dropping her off at school and I was drinking my coffee and I was just like, what the hell is this? Oh my God. And I'm just like, yeah, this is a bad scene. So let's not do that. It's so funny. Like I really I'm not a caffeine junkie. I just genuinely love coffee. Genuinely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Can't be stopped. Won't stop even. Let's talk about now. Have you traveled? Well, I guess you have. Like you did the EKF event. So I guess you have traveled specifically to fish. Is there anything like on your bucket list for specific lakes that you would love to be at?
Well, I mean, I love trying like any new body of water. The goal for this year, well, hopefully it's either going to be this year or next year.
Yep.
Is I want to go to ICAST down in Florida.
Yep.
And hit up like some of the lakes down that way.
There you go.
Yeah. Chase after maybe some peacock bass.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be a good time.
I think of Florida, or I mean, definitely this winter, a southern trip is going to happen. And I think I'm going to omit Tennessee from that because I'm planning on doing a return trip and fishing with Caleb down sometime this winter. But I would love to do Florida, Louisiana, Texas. I mean, shit, I do Alabama,
yeah.
I would it's nice that it's also it's a pretty quick flight, but honestly, like the drive isn't even that bad. Like I would suck it up and drive, as long as I've got the time to put into it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, with the warmer climate, I mean, the bass are just built different.
Oh yeah, they totally are. Absolutely right.
And I mean, to go even like to Texas, to catch some big Texas bass or California. I mean, that's definitely like a bucket list trip, any of those.
Oh, for sure. I got a good question for you that I don't ask very many people, but I want to start throwing it out there more. So let's assume you've got maybe a close friend or a family member that's interested in fishing and they want to get into it. What's some like a couple of tips that you would give them like getting started? Like what would you use as a way to kind of inspire them or get them off on the right foot?
Okay. I actually get this question a lot on Instagram. I have people, reach out, knowing that I just started out with the tournaments and I don't know, maybe I'm pretty approachable. I have people come up to me when I'm just fishing, like bank fishing a body of water.
Yep.
And I say, the number one thing, like, me, I'll buy clearance stuff at Walmart. I'm like, I got these baits for 70 cents,
Exactly.
So I think like you can get them to bite anything.
Can.
What you want to invest in is good line. Like I go with like InvisX, for a good fluoro.
Yep.
I actually lost an absolute beast when I was fishing with Gravy Fishing using a really popular line that just snapped on me.
Go ahead. What was it? The really popular line?
P-line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'll go cheap. I mean, people diss Eagle Claw, but they make a few good items. And I use them. I use stuff from the 40s to the 80s, My favorite spinning combo is from the 80s. It's a Shimano reel on a St. Croix rod. And that's
a nice combo from the 80s.
It is.
That's what I'm saying. That's not like your old Shakespeare you were using, when you were like a 10-year-old or something. That's a nice combo.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like yesterday, catching that beast, that was on a Daiwa spinning combo. That was $5 on clearance at Walmart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like if you invest in good line and, you do your research, you check out, the bait fish, like see what the fish want.
Yeah.
You can use anything.
Yeah.
You just have to, use a little bit of knowledge too.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. I mean, they'll eat anything. It's like we talk about baits like they're these magical things.
Right.
And like, honestly, it really makes such, there are obviously like subtle differences and their moods will change based on the conditions or the environment. But it's like at the same time, if you're willing to put the time in, you can figure it out.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I agree.
I know Sean is going to want to hear the answer to this question. So, question is this. Sean and I and who the fuck is Joe Brown? We are crammed into the Jigs and Bigs van, and we are going west on I-90, and we're coming to scoop you up, and we're going to go to your favorite tackle shop, and we're going to give you the Jigs and Bigs corporate card. You can purchase a brand new combo, one combo, a rod, a reel. We want to know what you're putting on it for line. We're going to an unnamed body of water, and you can only fish with that one combo. You can use any of the baits in your tackle box that you want, but you can only use that one combo. What would you build?
That's a good question. Let's see.
I know he's going to want to hear the answer to this.
I think what would be really fun,
yep.
Especially if I had the corporate card, is I would stop and grab myself a bamboo fly rod.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if we're just going to have, I just like to do crazy stuff if we're, going to have fun.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or even stop and get a Barbie pole.
There you go. Oh, we got
and make one of those crazy videos like the kid, who caught the 40-inch striper, on the Barbie pole.
Mm-hmm.
Just have some fun with it.
I think it's necessary. That is awesome. We've never had an answer like that. Most people go.
And I say this to my kids all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If it stops being fun, why are you doing it? So
exactly.
If you get into that mindset where you're like, oh, I'm so frustrated. I need to spend all this money. No.
Yeah.
Do something really fun. We're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was epic.
That's the whole thing. The fun is never, ever directly involved with the money that you spend on it. That's just something we do as people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody, I the same thing. Today, I was like, oh, I should run out and get this and this thing and this thing because I might need them for this thing coming up. And I'm like, why? I have so much gear already. I just need to be smart and and just enjoy what I'm doing because there's no consequences when you're going out and fishing. I shared something on Instagram that has been a buzz all this week. It's gotten so many views. And I reposted this from this account, and it was from the show. I think it was from the show Scandal is what it came from. And it was a part where there were these two characters, and they're standing outside, and the guy says, "Do you fish?" And you know what? I'm going to actually play the audio because I think it's actually that good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to play the audio so you can hear it and get an idea of exactly what it is that I'm talking about. All right, here we go.
Do you fish? No. People who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. This is why I am fishing, because I am never disappointed out here, because I don't expect anything, because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
It's wild how accurate that is.
That is so accurate.
It's true because it's you could go right around. I look back at that trip I was talking about with Paul when I was at Up the Shears, and we fished hard. And it's, yes, albeit some of it was fishing history. I was going to spots where I had good results in the past. You know, I ended up hooking up with the biggest fish of the day out of the two that we each caught, or out of the one that we each caught. On the way back to the ramp, like just taking that last cast of like, all right, cool, I'm gonna hit this corner right over here with this Ned rig and see what happens, and then bang. And it's true. Like you always have hope when you're out fishing. There's always that opportunity that next cast could be a giant, or it could just be an adventure. You could hook into something that's brand new. It was like that when I caught my first bowfin, you know? And I think that's what makes fishing so unique, is that all it takes is that one cast, and, you know, you could, even if you fail, you've still won, you know?
Definitely.
It's wild. I agree. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that answer, though, about what you'd put together, a freaking Barbie rod or a bamboo fly rod. I think that is absolutely genius.
Yeah, just go have some fun.
Aside from like actually going out fishing or buying gear or any of that kind of stuff, how is it that you've made fishing like part of your everyday lifestyle?
That's a good question.
It's like, I know for me, I've got my hands in my pockets right now and I've got soft plastics. It's just the way they're everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sitting in my kitchen right now, and I may have like a rack sitting right here with like 12 rods on it. So
there you go.
Yeah, I guess it is everywhere in every part of my life now. You know, I have 3 kids. I love taking them fishing. And it's also, you know, teaching them about patience. You know, there's so much more to fishing than just fishing. Like, you're not out there to just catch fish. Like, you're, you know, becoming part of a community. You're making friends. You're, you know, so fishing, like once you get into it, it becomes so much more than just fishing.
Yeah, it really does. It's the part about fishing that I never really like kind of anticipated, I guess, is that for me, there's a certain part of it that comes at that where I feel like as an angler, I'm kind of a steward for the environment now. Like, I try to take note of when, you know, things in the area that I'm fishing are a bit off. You know, I do more to keep a place clean. I'm more aware, even like when I was camping with Delirious up in Maine and we were packing up, I was like, every single thing, like I made sure that we removed everything that we could from the environment to leave it as untouched as possible. And I think that's just amazing. It's the connection. I think you hear it all the time. Like you'll hear folks that are just like, it's so funny because it's split in half, actually. Like, you'll hear from folks who don't fish that think that anglers go out and they just make a mess of everything. But the other half of us are out there picking up the garbage that everybody else who's outdoors, not just anglers, but everybody else who's outdoors leaves behind. You know, and I think that if there's one positive thing that can come from that, I think that's a big one. Because I have never stopped carrying a trash bag when I'm fishing. You know, and I feel good about that.
And actually, at one of the tournaments, I got carried away for over an hour just, you know, picking out old plastics from the water. But it's like, you know, you just feel more connected to nature and
like you have a little
to the water.
Yeah, like there's a little bit of responsibility there. Like you're like, I'm using this for my recreation, for my sport, for my therapy, for my whatever it is to you. You know, it's like, let's do what we can to keep it as clean as possible.
Right. Definitely.
I love
it. Although last summer I did kind of become an Uber for wildlife. I had so many videos on my Instagram of like, you know, wildlife that would just come up to my kayak and, you know, either want to ride or something was wrong with them. And I kind of felt like Snow White in a way, but, I had, you know, a turtle that was hit by a boat prop, you know, the squirrel, at Hoodlum Fest.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Squirrel out in the middle of the lake. And, you know, I offered him a ride on the kayak, which was a very bad idea, by the way. If you're ever considering giving a squirrel a ride, don't do it.
Oh, I'm sure that's a terrible idea. I mean,
it was terrible. He was screaming. I was screaming. It was, it was not good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's talk content. Like, do you, I guess, sort of consider yourself to be a fishing content creator, or are you just out there just doing it and having fun with it?
Yeah, not really.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't call myself a content creator. I mean, even the amount of followers I have on Instagram now with as little as I post, it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, Instagram can be great and it can also be terrible. And I think I've experienced kind of both sides of it already.
Yep.
Especially being a female. I actually got offered a charter and I was so excited. And
oh no.
Then he said, but I'm going to have a camera crew here and, wear a bikini. And I'm like, well, that's not happening.
That's not what you're there for. Exactly.
Yeah. And, props to the girls who
want to do that.
Fishing in a bikini.
Yeah.
And
like that's up to them. If that's what they want to do, awesome. But
yeah, cool. But like, I don't want any part of that. I'm head to toe in my SPF gear and I just want to fish.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And that's exactly like you nailed it. Like you can do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah,
if that's what you want to do.
You can do whatever you want on social media.
Yep.
And yeah, there's, a little bit of everything for everybody, which I think is super cool. And I think I've kind of, found my group now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, if it wasn't for Instagram, I don't even think I would have, my fishing group now. I actually started talking to Delirious on Instagram.
Yeah. I think Instagram's a very powerful tool.
It definitely can be.
Yep.
But, the negative is out there too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But I think, if you're starting to get like overwhelmed by like all the bad stuff on social media, just block it.
Take a break, block it. Yeah. That's the other thing.
Don't block people, take a break.
Don't take it so personally,
Yeah.
It's so funny. We're talking like Instagram and like the random shit. So this week, I don't even think I shared this with anybody yet, but one of the things that I do on Instagram a lot is, I'm not a dummy. I understand that the core principle that makes social media work, no matter what they do to the algorithm, is that engagement is always going to drive and increase your ultimate visibility to everybody. So I try to just constantly like repost things that I can relate to. Like I'm not posting things like thirst traps that are just like, oh yeah, I was going to get a bunch of, people to comment or whatever. It's like, no, this is something that's in the conversation, or it's a point that I can relate to, or the show could relate to, and I'll post that. And as always, like I'm giving the credit of where that original post came from. The caveat here is that most people don't read shit these days. They don't read the caption. So like they go flying off the handle because they saw something on the screen and they didn't read the caption to know what was what. Well, it was right after we recorded last week's show. I go upstairs, I'm hanging out with my wife, and I'm just, watching some TV with her, and before we go to bed, and I get a bunch of angry DMs from this one content creator in like New Zealand who had posted something on his public account. That's important. It was a public account, and I had reposted it and gave him proper credit for the image and everything else in the caption. But he said to me, oh man, I'm going to go ahead and read the actual stuff. And it blew my mind. I was like, who even the hell are you? Where is this clown? There we go. So he says to me, he goes, not very cool to steal videos and post them on your page, mate. He puts the link to his video. By the way, the link that he posted was the link that I copied and then pasted into the repost app that does this for you. Yeah. He goes, that's my original content, and you didn't even ask permission. You're collecting views from other people's work. Now, mind you, his English was a fucking train wreck, so I'm fixing it. I pasted your caption and actually tagged you. I said, reposting content is beneficial to everyone. If you have a problem with it, make your account private. That's what that's for. his response sent me down a spiral of fuck that guy. So I blocked him and the whole night. I even reported him. I was like, he goes, wow, great attitude. It's only beneficial to you, and you didn't ask my permission to do so. He says, you're the only person who did that, and you seem to be doing this with a lot of other videos. Sharing in your story would have been sufficient. Please remove my video from your profile. Thank you. I responded by saying, well, the App Store has many repost apps available with thousands of other downloads. So no, I'm not the only person doing this. Yes, I've been doing this for years, and you're the only person who's responded this way. I'm not removing a damn thing, and you're literally tagged in the caption.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, people think they post something on a public profile and they have an ownership to it. Like, all I'm doing is posting that. In fact, if anything, some people will see that post and go to that other profile to see what else is there. Again, like, people are morons and they don't read the caption. This guy didn't read the caption, because I put my commentary over it and then pasted exactly what his caption was below it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you've got to be shitting me. And it blows my mind. Like, you posted something on the internet that's a public profile. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
It's like when you share something, regardless of what the platform is, like, it benefits everybody. Every time somebody hits that copy link, that right there instantly helps you, whether I post it or not. So, you're welcome. I got to get off my high horse with that.
It's so true, though, because, like, you see all these different, like, fishing profiles where they're literally just like a montage of every different creator that you could imagine. Then they just repost.
Yeah.
But they don't give credit. They say, like, whatever, fishing time, or, any of those.
Oh, those spammy ones that are like,
and
the bots.
Like,
yep.
But then, you have, like, people like you and others who are genuinely just sharing, like, other people's content and bringing them more views, more likes. I mean, if you post something publicly, it's kind of out for the public to see.
That's exactly it. Like, all I'm doing is, and you're tagged in it. Like, he got a notification when I posted this. And by the way, that was like 3 months ago. So, like, he's only reaching out now because I have a feeling he only signs on once every so often. Like, he's not a content creator. You know what I mean? He's just posting shit. In the video, he says it's his original. Like, that initial video, I've seen people do this where there'll be like a clip from like a movie and they make a meme out of that. And then they get all bent out of shape when somebody else shares it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You know what's funny? Speaking about those bots, I shared a reel I reposted a reel on my Bobby Roast Beef profile today, and it was the top 10 most dangerous cities in Massachusetts. It was from purely Boston, and I thought it was just interesting. So I'm like, this will get people talking. But I put the caption in there. I tagged that account. Everything's good. The first comment that pops up is like, post it on or repost it on, what was the page? Massachusetts Life or something like that. And I was like, really, bro? In the comments, just to, again, like, stoke the bot. I got a DM instantly. They're like, yeah, bro, good. Just go ahead and visit this profile and repost it here. And I'm like, you're trying to represent Massachusetts in the best light possible.
Yet this is a list of the most dangerous cities in the state.
People are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
This is how I know I'm getting old, Chrissy. I'm getting old. Get me my walker. It's coming.
All right.
It's coming. All right. Yeah, this is absolutely awesome, Chrissy. Before we wrap things up, if you have anything going on that you want to tease, or like you have any upcoming like tournaments that you're looking forward to, go ahead, let people know what's going on, where they can follow you if they want to, and the moment is yours, or the stage is yours.
Why, thank you, Bobby. So I'm on Instagram at Chrissy Fishing. I'm on Facebook. I have a YouTube. I haven't posted any YouTube videos yet, but that is coming.
There you go.
Especially, with the new Old Town, and I have a GoPro now, part of the GoPro club.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot that's coming up. And
Good.
I feel like, if you want to follow along for someone who's like starting out with the tournaments, I just started last June.
Yeah.
So actually, June.
Wow.
My next tournament, it'll be a year with MAKB.
Isn't that nuts?
And I know what a difference a year makes. It's just crazy, mind blowing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. That's all.
I love it. No, that's great. We have more good stuff to look forward to from Chrissy Fishing. This is awesome. We're going to have to schedule another outing this summer for sure. And,
definitely.
Yeah.
And we still need to have that Barbie pole tournament on the pool floaties. I am so excited for that.
I'm into that. I'm 100% into that. I would, yeah.
I think it would be hysterical, especially if somebody, hooked their own float with a treble hook.
Oh my God. Oh my God. We might want to make sure we do this in like an area, like, with like a beach,
This is true.
That on a weekday when nobody's going to be there, kind of something like that. I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah. Either way, I think it'll be a ton of fun.
We'll start taking names. Maybe we can make this a kind of a thing. It could be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Chrissy, this is really, really great. Thank you so much for doing it. You're kicking ass out there, and it's only going to get better for you. So congrats and good luck on your upcoming tourneys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, Chrissy. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Love that outro music right there. Getting back into segment 3 after our interview. Chrissy, it was awesome to have you on the show. Glad we finally got to do this. I don't know why it never dawned on me to set this up earlier, but it's good. And what a fantastic guest. We had a show this week that was so jam-packed for everybody. And I think that is a magical, very special thing. Joe looks exhausted.
Yeah.
I went to bed late last night.
Oh,
I took a little nappy nap, and then I was like,
oh, yeah. I fell asleep for like 45 minutes in my recliner when I got home. And dude, my wife is amazing. So this is what I got home to last night. My wife's a nurse, right? And she works in the Springfield school system, but she also teaches a CNA course at a local community college. And right now they're doing their clinical, and they are, at a facility, and to make the hours. And I don't know if this is because of our trip to Vegas or whatever, but to schedule it, she scheduled one of these days on a Saturday. It was like a full day. It was like a 7 to 3. So she goes and does this. And while we were on the water, Joe, she sent me a picture of a little like a tin foil and like plastic to-go container from like a restaurant, right? Well, she has one student that I think she's Jamaican, and she will make a batch of all kinds of food. And she brought in for my wife a packaged meal, and it was jerk chicken. And I got home and out of this world, so good. So I ate that, had a big bottle of water, and I passed out for like 45 minutes. I woke up and I was like, "Brr." And I'm like, I better not sleep anymore, otherwise I'm gonna mess up. I was in bed at 9:45 last night.
I got home, took a little nappy nap,
Yeah.
real quick, same thing, like half hour, 45 minutes. And then Meg proceeded to tell me that we are bringing the kids to the local wicked white trash farm town carnival in town.
You got to. It's awesome. Peg leg Jimmy operating the tilt-a-whirl over there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, sweet.
I also took a 45-minute nap, and I don't know if I told you this, Bobby. I've been slowly peeling through Trailer Park Boys.
Yes. Great
so
series.
I'm on season 3. Yeah, I just ripping right through them and watched a bunch of those. Then went to bed about 10 or 10:30. I don't know. I was in bed when the news for the Celtics came through and the bar down the street erupted. I heard that with the windows open. So,
Wild.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it was nuts. One thing you're not going to hear moving forward, guys, is any trivia talk on this show. That is simply because I'm putting that on its own separate podcast. The 10-second podcast. So if you guys are interested in that, on Thursday, I released a brand new episode. I had previously used this to kind of talk with other hosts and, do this as like a tool for the software platform that I use when I host trivia. But now I'm kind of opening it up to just talk about really anything, but involving that trivia audience. And I'm going to talk a lot about my games and shit there. So go ahead. And if you're interested in that, go ahead, check out the 10-second podcast. It's much shorter than Jigs and Pigs. It's only 45 minutes, at least this last episode. And I don't think it's going to go much higher than that. But I'm going to be having like some of these guests. You're going to get to hear from the Horny Leprechauns. You're going to get to hear from Adrian Peterson Daycare LLC. You're going to get to hear from Cinnamon Rim Jobs. You're going to hear all this stuff. It's going to be good.
Hey, Bobby, to help anybody who's looking on like Spotify, like myself, is it 10 the number or 10 TEN?
Oh, that's a very, very, very good question. Let's take a look. Your shows. Where are my shows?
Because I have the 10-minute Bible hour. That came up.
No.
Oh, that's it. That's the one.
It's the number 10. The 10 second podcast.
Got it.
Yep. The 10-second podcast. Yeah. And, I explained why it's called the 10-second podcast in episode 5, which is the most current one. That does it for us, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for checking this show out. Enjoy your long weekend. And you'll be getting the show afterwards, so I guess that doesn't make any sense. But, welcome to work on a Tuesday. Go ahead and catch as many fish as you can. And remember, we've had folks tagging us in their pics when they get on some good fish. That is awesome. I love that. Go ahead. If nothing else, I'm going to throw you a like, and I'll make a comment. It just lets me know that you guys are, one, listening to this show, and number 2, that you're getting on them. And that is awesome. Thanks, everybody. You guys have anything else that you want to add before we wrap this sucker up?
Nope.
Let's go ahead. We'll see you guys in 7 days. Catch as many fish as you can, and we will see you guys with more Jigs and Bigs goodness next week. And like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.